Welcome back to Pixels and Pints, where we're going to talk some video games, TV shows, movies, in a little bit more depth this week, and drink some tasty Australian beers. I've got all Australian, I think. I shouldn't say that before I read them properly.
We almost always do.
Yeah, almost always. Drink some tasty Australian craft beers, and that guy that Ed just sent a picture through about his newspaper article can go get fucked, because we're going to use all those descriptions, and he can go fuck himself. If I could care to remember his name that Ed sent through, that we'd call him out and shame him. But
Wanker McWankstain, I believe his name was. The third.
So I'm Dan. I'm joined tonight by our audio curator, Pete.
Howdy.
The one who spends so much time dealing with all of our bullshit and editing. And Tom, who creates most of those problems in the bullshit and editing.
Hello, everybody.
Fuck. And poor old innocent Dan in the corner. Yes.
Yes. Poor innocent Dan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey,
Dan's never the one at fault.
You told me it was my intro, so I get to give myself whatever intro I like.
Just because you were in there first today and we didn't have to wait 40 minutes to figure out your microphone and your fucking camera.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, it's Sunday afternoon here. It's pretty warmish where I am. I don't know about you guys, but
sweaty in my studio. Yeah.
I am sweating like a priest in a playground.
It's a nice nice Sunday afternoon to have a couple of tasty beers and talk some shit, which we sound like we're right on point already. So. Tom's face just turned into a cat's asshole, so I think he can go first.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I am drinking Al Dente from Sobremesa Fermentory and Blendery, who I'm sure we've never had on the podcast before. No. They are from Kensington in Victoria. And it is obviously 3rd of December, so I'm 3 days into my Canvent calendar. I'm doing my first two beers are from both my little advent calendars. So this was made in collaboration with Carwyn Cellars in Melbourne. It's a blend of barrels aged on red currants and cranberries. And this is a blend of 5 barrel fermented saisons, aging from 7 months to 3 years old. It's conditioned on a blend of local red currants and cranberries at a rate of 250 grams per litre for 7 weeks. And it says it's fruit-driven, bright and tart with integrated funk. And it is tart. Whoa! Like,
we could read that from your face.
That was Warhead level. Like, I'm salivating. It is like the currants are coming straight through. The cranberries really like bright and tart and dry as well. It's really drying. And just the color on it. Like,
yeah.
Have a bang on that. Yeah, this is fantastic. If they don't re-release this as like a limited run, I would hope they'd have extras left over. This is fantastic.
I got to be in the mood for a saison, I have to say, just because of that farmhouse funk.
I normally don't like this is definitely more puckeringly sour. Like, I'm not getting heaps of that Frenchy. Not going to get into it. The Frenchy. This is definitely coming through.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, this is more like I'm sure they probably use the saison yeast and stuff, but it's not carrying that particular flavor through. I'm not getting all that funkiness. I'm getting just really like bright fresh fruit and like heaps of really puckering sour. That is fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted on a day like today. Yeah, that is cracking. That is 5 fucking stars.
5. Wowzers.
5.
What a start.
Yeah.
What a start. Saison's traditionally a ale style, isn't it? With saison yeast. Is that what makes a saison essentially?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a particular yeast strain. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I guess you'd probably be getting less of that farmhouse funk as you kind of change it from an ale into a sour ale.
Yeah, but it's it's sour as all fuck. It's great.
Yeah, like I said, I got to be in the mood for a straight up saison.
But that could be soured from the being in the barrel, not from an actual souring, like a kettle souring process or a mash.
They may have, it may have fermented with the black currants.
Yeah. It might have picked up some fruit or some wild yeast from the fruit skins, and who knows if there's no description.
It's literally just this, fruit driven, bright and tart with integrated funk.
Yeah.
Like you get a bit of that funk on the nose, but wrap your lips around it, and it's Yep, it's coming back again.
You know,
It's right up in the gums.
I've actually never done an advent calendar. I really should. Anywho, Dan?
Fun.
I've had this one. I've had all these beers sitting in my fridge for weeks and been staring at me in the face. I've got Molly Rose Raspberry Lamington. So raspberry and coconut sour. Molly Rose are from Victoria, and they're quickly becoming one of my favourite up-and-coming, or I probably shouldn't call them up-and-coming. They've been around for a little while now, but all their releases that I've tried have been great. This is really tasty. It's a really nice, light raspberry sour. It's got a reasonable sort of mid-level tartness to it. Really good fruit character. Super clean too. Not getting too much coconut, which I would have really liked to sort of come through on the back palate. So I think it could use a real boost there. But it's nice and fresh and lightly tart, and exactly what I needed for this for the warmer weather, just to get started on. So I think that's a good 4.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not going to go quarter points here because I don't think it deserves a 3.75, but I don't think it deserves a 4.25 either. So I'm gonna go on a 4.
Nice.
Yep. What
So
do you got,
we've
Pete?
finally broken him. I'm also drinking a Molly Rose. This is one of their Radlers.
I had that the other day.
It killed Tom, but it's fucking not bad.
So as soon as you pulled up the label, I was like, nah, it's poison. Nah, it's poison.
Yeah. I had it the other day when I was looking for something light as well, just because it's only like 2.9%.
Yeah. It's I've had their Heaps Mandarin Radler before, which is another low alc. I think there's a third one I just saw when I was looking it up on Untapped. There was a pink label, so obviously they've done something with raspberry or strawberry or something. This is really fucking good, actually. You can get just a touch of the jalapeno spice, and then lime juice, lots of lime juice. Super refreshing. I mean, it's inoffensive. It's surprisingly flavorful given how like the low ABV on it. It's not thin as you get with a lot of low alc beers. Now, I think Radler's is Radler not the style? Is it a style that is naturally low alc, or is this specifically brewed to be low alcoholic?
They're traditionally lower alcohol. They're like I think they refer to them as like bicycle beers, so they can go take them out.
While I'm on my penny farthing,
yeah. So
quite literally, yeah.
I had some and not be too intox to drive. And it's meant to be hotter weather, spring, summer beers as well. So yeah, traditionally lower alc.
That's really fucking solid actually for a starting beer. I'm going to give that 4 as well. I'm impressed given what it is. It's not the best beer I've tried, but at 2.9% to get that much flavor out of it, it's kind of making me want a margarita though with all that lime juice.
Just drop a shot in, help yourself.
I've got some Contro somewhere, and is it Contro? It's the orange liqueur.
Yeah, Contro. Yeah, you don't want that. You want a Tommy's. You want a Tommy's margarita. Just double shot of tequila, agave juice, lime. Don't fuck around with Contro. Those oranges to piss off.
Anyway, I'll tell you what.
What happened there? Where am I?
Don't use margarita mix is my advice in life. Every single time I've tried margarita mixed shortcut, it's feral as fuck. No. Anyway, let's kick off with some news.
Let's do it.
We interrupt this broadcast with some breaking news from the front.
That's a solid round of beeries. I'm happy with that.
Well done, everyone.
We've been talking about this for a while. We're going to continue talking about it because fuck you. There's nothing you can do.
It's going to continue happening too. Yeah.
No, well, there's nothing you can do if you're going to continue listening to us, but there's also nothing you can do if you're a consumer of media. So PlayStation are about to delete a bunch of shit from your PlayStation library, even if you paid for it. So Discovery has been purchased by Warner Brothers, which is just a fucking stupid acquisition anyway. But due to licensing, PlayStation is now removing all Discovery Channel shows, including Mythbusters and a fuck ton of others. Now, Discovery pump out a bunch of low-cost, low-value TV series, I would argue. I think there was one called Pregnant Behind Bars was a TV series that came up in the list. So you can kind of get the idea for some of the stuff. But then Mythbusters was like a
Phenomenon.
generationally defining
Phenomenon.
fucking TV series, right? So, but this is just the continuation, and it's early days for you realizing that you don't own your fucking content, and that these studios will just delete shit whenever the fuck they want, and there's nothing you can do. And in the old days, you used to be able to say, "I'll just buy it on disc," but now we're not even getting discs. So, fuck you, consumers.
Hell,
The end.
the 7 C's, I believe, is the way to go.
And that's and that's where they're pushing us.
There's a YouTube clip that keeps popping up in my list to watch, and it's titled "Why Piracy Will Always Win." I haven't watched it yet, but I'm starting to get interested in it.
For a while, streaming really killed piracy, right? In a big way. And then they've done is taken us off the teat of buying discs, and then now they're back to fucking us in the arse. So we're back to, unfurling the Jolly Roger that's been in the back cupboard for a couple of years. Tom, next one's yours, mate.
That was a description and a half that I'm going to just leave alone, especially after we're talking about pregnant behind bars.
And we're getting into dick and ball jiggling physics later on too.
Hot diggity damn.
It falls.
Good old Elon Musk. He's just continually fucked over X and Twitter.
Fuck that guy, honestly.
Oh, God, he's
What a
funny to watch, though. It's kind of funny to watch him implode.
It's like watching a civilization die in slow motion.
But you can no longer share your stuff from your PlayStation directly to Twitter. Doesn't really matter because the PS app's actually really good now at getting your captures.
Yeah, it is.
Even I can use it.
I know.
That's
the
fucking
real,
saying something.
That's the real miracle. That's the real miracle right there.
If it's easy enough for me to install an app and it doesn't have me jump through 1,000 fucking hoops before I get there, and I can actually get clips and that off there, it's got to be saying something.
But that happened November 13th, so it's probably only affected some streamers. It's that's the only people it really would affect. I used to steal my platinum clips from that, but I can get them straight from the PS app now. So, oh well, thanks Twitter. I'll still occasionally look at you for boobs because that's all you're good for.
I like to see what the latest craziness is from certain political persuasions.
Oh yeah, you get down some Twitter rabbit holes there.
Yeah, that's anyway.
In some good news though, and I think this is excellent. So PlayStation were part of the Playing for the Planet Alliance, which is a commitment they made to the UN. So they've created the Aloy's Forest Project.
Which I've got to say, after my very, very off-the-cuff comment around Aloy in VR in the Call of the Mountain or whatever it's called.
Call of the Mountain,
Aloy's Forest Project is not what I thought you were talking about when I first read that.
Copy, right, yes, chef, say no more. Anyway, Aloy's Forest Project.
I'm definitely missing something here, so we might take this, we might continue this conversation later.
Oh, dear. So what this basically
is... Next generation of PlayStation VR video games.
Stop it. We're talking about a good thing.
Sorry.
Basically, what they've done is if you earned certain trophies, specifically the Reach the Daunt trophy in Horizon Forbidden West, they would then go and plant a certain amount of trees. So it's helping with reforestation. They have since... When did Horizon... That was February, wasn't it? That came out for the...
Second one?
Yeah. February.
It feels like longer than
maybe
that.
last year, maybe the end of last year.
It does feel like longer than that.
Somebody look that up. But since that game has come out, if you got up to that Reach the Daunt trophy, depending where you are in the world, there were certain initiatives that would then go and plant trees. So they plant over 600,000 new trees.
Wow.
And they have 1,800 acres of indigenous lands and wildlife habitats have been restored as a result of this. So,
well done.
February last year.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So, but still, that's a lot of fucking trees to plant.
And to come out of a video game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's excellent.
Yeah. I remember seeing this as part of the promotional thing when it came out, and I kind of glanced at it, but I'm definitely going to keep an eye on the Playing for the Planet Alliance. I think that's a great idea. Especially someone who goes and hunts trophies now. If there's more games I can go play, and someone's going to go plant some trees as a result.
Do they take it one step further? And every time somebody plays God of War, PS4, that when Kratos cuts one down, they cut one down.
Hopefully not.
Atreus kills a deer.
kind of we were headed in the right place, and just as we got to the target,
hey, Trace kills the deer, and some poor intern goes, "Oh," just grabs the bow.
Hey, we got the good news, and I agree, it's excellent news and well done. I just needed to add a bit of something in the end.
Continuing in the mischievous mood.
Yeah, continuing in the kind of the good news stories. Electronic Arts has made a bunch of their tool sets open source to help with accessibility issues. So they've got a bunch of patents for video game systems that help with accessibility for people that are handy abled in various different ways. And they've basically made them open source, so other video game studios can now use EA's tool set. So the latest one is a system called Iris, which is a machine learning system that basically analyzes video game footage looking for photosensitivity triggers for people with epilepsy.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's using AI or ML is machine learning is kind of an extension of artificial intelligence, but it uses it to kind of look at it frame by frame, and it's looking for specific patterns of lights flashing, two-body flashings, that sort of stuff. It's also they've got a bunch of other stuff out there, and it's usually based on machine learning again. So there's systems that will suggest controller configurations based on usage patterns and common handicaps, or people missing fingers or people missing hands, those sorts of things. Certainly around color blindness or color desensitivity, and it's not truly blindness for the most part. Those sorts of things. So there's a bunch of different systems that they've now released as open source, which I think is cool. Yeah,
the PlayStation Access controller releases on the 6th. It's the 3rd today, so next week. And I watched an unboxing video of that. It's just like, wow, it's super easy to set up for whatever you need to set it up for. It's just clip-off magnets. It's all clip-off magnets. It's great. So yeah, can't wait to see some reviews of that, like people actually using it and how accessible it is.
Obviously, some smart industrial designers out there, because it would have been super ironic to have a controller specifically to help people with disabilities and then make it fucking impossible to adjust it, right? So
yeah.
I'm glad that they found ways around the obvious of not needing a fucking screwdriver and an Allen key.
Or even just like clipping things in to keep the buttons on or stuff like that. Yeah.
So Ubisoft hasn't read the story of Pandora and is trying to unleak the remaster of Beyond Good and Evil. So
they haven't played God of War 3.
So yeah. So they fucked up themselves. Apparently, anyone who was an Ubisoft, I don't even know what this is. It must be an American thing, but an Ubisoft monthly subscription service. It obviously must give you access to all the Ubisoft back catalogue of games, maybe.
Which you get as part of like the PS Deluxe. You've got the Ubisoft catalog,
but I guess in Australia, for example, we've got a bunch of streaming services like for TV, like Binge, that includes most of the content that you would get from like a Paramount Plus subscription and a AMC Plus subscription. So I suspect in America it's a lot more granular than it is over here.
Yeah. Okay.
Although, mind you, they pay $18 a month for the Ubisoft subs, so it might be more granular, but it's certainly not fucking cheaper. Anyway. If you're a subscriber, they gave you access to their brand new 4K full remaster of the original Beyond Good and Evil, and then realized they done fucked up and didn't mean to release it until next year. But it was a little too late because a bunch of people had already played the fuck out of it and have uploaded a shit ton of it. Yeah. So there's a bunch of clips up on YouTube already for their game that hasn't officially been released. Meanwhile, Larian dropped a huge Baldur's Gate 3 patch 5, which I've just installed.
Did you have to uninstall your game to reinstall it? Because that was the official advice from Larian, because they said it's so big that you might have to actually... Gig. Yeah, but on top of the actual like original game file, they suggested, their official suggestion was, it's probably easier for you to delete the game off your console and just re-download the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
I laughed long and hard at it. I was like, that's great.
That's why I've got a 25 gigabyte download sitting in my Steam download library. Yep.
It's no, for me it was fine. I did notice they released a second unnoted patch today, so version 5.2. So I suspect they've probably fixed some sort of issue that was caused by patch 5.
Yep.
But like the patch notes, and I'm not going to read them, but the patch notes are pages and pages long. Some of the high level like highlights, they've added an entirely new section at the end of the game called the epilogue. I'll talk more about it at the end of the episode, but I've just finished the game for the first time, and I do have to agree that once the story ends, it's kind of halting. It's just kind of roll credits, and it's like, but hang on, there's a whole bunch of conversations with all my characters that I really wanted to have that I never got to kind of close the loop on things.
Yeah.
So they've added an epilogue that is directly addresses that specific issue to give you a sense of closure with your allies. They've added a new difficulty mode called Honor Mode, which, if it's anything like Larian's previous games, will be ridiculously difficult and will automatically delete the save game if you have a party wipe. Yeah. Lots of performance improvements. Dynamic resolution for PlayStation 5, new language, Korean, and then just a shitload of little tweaks to rules, the way that things work, and the dick jiggle physics, which I think is fucking hilarious. How did somebody notice that? So apparently now they've added jiggle physics.
It's the first thing I'd notice. If my character was running along, I'd be like, his balls aren't jiggling enough. Thank you very much. Fix those physics.
But the only way you would have noticed is if you went back to the character select screen, which I guess you can do mid-game because you have a magic mirror in your camp. And if you approach the magic mirror, you can change your facial features and hair and colors and lipsticks and eyeliner and all that sort of shit, tattoos. And you can strip your character naked at any point in the game if you really want to. But in order to see the jiggle physics of your penis and testicles, you would have to strip your character naked in the magic mirror and then flick the mouse around or the controller around so that he twists on the spot enough. That's very specific for somebody to be sitting there checking it after every patch.
Yeah, maybe
they finally fixed my schlong.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't feel like this game was perfect.
The guitar in the shower, like, just having a little strum.
Anyway, so yes, they've added jiggle physics. Thank God for modern software development.
People still are worried that AI is going to take over when this is what we focus on is dick jiggle physics.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Back to you, Tom.
This could be Dan.
This is my one. So talking about dick and ball jiggle physics, Cyberpunk had it from the very beginning in the character creation screen, and I guarantee I know that through personal experience. Playing.
Are there genitals in Cyberpunk?
Yeah.
I remember.
I didn't know there was.
I remember that. Yeah, it was the same kind of outcry when it came out. It was just like, why do we need it? It was just like, who cares? Dick and balls.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Titties.
But Cyberpunk's getting another going on the first big base game patch update it got when Phantom Liberty came out 3 weeks ago. That started November. The base game got a huge patch update there. With even if you bought the Phantom Liberty expansion or not. And this Tuesday, 5th of December, it gets another massive update that adds content to the base game, as well as changing some stuff around in Phantom Liberty and the base game. So they're still cranking that massive work out. It's some bug fixes, but is actually additional content, I don't think it's additional missions or anything like that, but it's definitely additional things, social content with other characters within the world. So I think that's huge for them to do that, and it is bundled with the Ultimate Edition that somebody's added there as well. So
which is also getting its physical release.
I was getting a physical release too, is it?
Yeah. So yes, same thing.
With that last big patch update and the Ultimate Edition coming out, CDPR have said they've moved more than 50%, or just under 50%, of their staff over to concentrate on The Witcher 4. So it's Witcher Polaris is its code name at the moment.
What are the other half doing? Making sandwiches for the first half?
Still working on the support for Cyberpunk for the moment. And they had a investor review last week, I think it was, and there's actually a big.
You attended, didn't you, Dan?
Definitely. There's
in person too. He flew to Poland.
a 20 or 30 minute behind the scenes documentary that came out on the things that they learnt through their fuck ups on releasing Cyberpunk, and it's all come out with this investor review and where they're going forward. So I'm going to watch
it
that.
end with we should have just stuck with Witcher?
I'll report back on that. But no, they're opening CDPR in Boston, and the lead from Cyberpunk is moving to Boston, and they're concentrating on Cyberpunk 2. So we don't.
It's
have
going to be
any
another Ubisoft Montreal versus Ubisoft wherever kind of
potentially keep the Polish history of Witcher in Poland and move the Cyberpunk stuff to the Boston office. So there's a lot going on there, and can't wait to hear more about Witcher 4. Even if we just get a little tidbit of information about what's going on there, that would be fantastic. But the fact that they've moved just under 50% and moving more in the coming months over to Witcher 4 is a very, very good thing.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Oh, remember, actually, you on Witcher, remember how I sent you that thing? I was like, this is weird that the game Destiny was adding in Geralt content.
The bathtub.
I realized why. It's because it's the new season they're doing is called the Season of the Wish. And so it's all around it's like a connection with the Last Wish. Yeah. No one cares about that, Tom, so shut up.
Just a crossover that we didn't need.
Yeah. The Destiny suits, the Witcher suits in the Destiny look fucking great.
They do.
On YouTube, yeah.
But that's just, I mean, it's an Unreal 5 engine. That's what you're going to, like, you're going to expect that kind of quality out of the next Witcher game too. It's just because tech's changed.
Yeah.
So we're not
going back.
So we're not going to do trailer trash this episode. We'll talk about what we'll do with that segment some other episode, but just we are going to mention a couple of trailers.
We took him out the back of the trailer and took old Yeller out.
So Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer dropping 1 a.m. December 6th, Sydney time. Thank you for the very specific update.
You are welcome, sir.
But wasn't GTA 6 like kind of leaked 6 months ago?
Some of it was, yeah.
So
and
here's
then
a trailer.
Over the course of this weekend, a son of one of the developers went in and recorded on his phone and uploaded to TikTok and Instagram some footage of his dad like watching the trailer and
how to get your father fired.
Kid's out of the wheel. Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Oh boy, there's some true fucking idiots in this world, isn't there?
Yep.
Yeah.
So yes. 1 a.m. December 6th, Sydney time, if you're bothered to be up for it. Otherwise, just wait until the morning. You can probably watch it in bed still.
It's not like the tennis.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There was also a couple of other little trailers I think we're just going to dump. You can go look at them if you feel, rather than us putting them up. So Mass Effect 5 got an in-game engine teaser as part of their N7 day, which is November 7th, is their little Mass Effect day. It showed a potential new main character build. Very popped collar. Didn't look like Shepard, so yeah, looked more like what you'd expect like an N7 spy to be like. It was that kind of vibes. Yeah,
they had a trench coat,
massive pop collar, but still had like the sleek helmet. It looked very sleek. But yeah, I'm sure we'll see more of that in coming months, probably maybe even after this week. Also, yeah, for the news, next South Park game, the Snow Day. Which is going off the last Stick of Truth. It's same kind of vibe. They've released a new gameplay trailer for that.
Is it? I thought it was the what type of game? Like, this is fucking showing my age. What type of game is Fortnite?
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale. I thought the Snow Day one was a Battle Royale game.
From the trailer, it looked more like the story-based Stick of Truth. I haven't played it. I don't know.
Okay. I could be wrong. Pete's frantically Googling, so we've got to fill some airspace, and I've lost the run sheet.
Oh, well, no,
I am frantically Googling. You are correct, but instead of getting my answers, I'm getting all this stupid shit I don't care about, like cookies. When am I going to get a disable all button, you bastards? Can't tell. All new 3D co-op game, Blizzard of epic proportions. I don't want to read this shit. I have no idea. We'll let you know next episode for the one person who gives a flying fuck.
It says on Steam, action adventure, action RPG.
Okay.
Yeah, but what does it say if you look up fucking Fortnite?
I don't know. I don't look up Fortnite. Play with up to three friends, use matchmaking, or solo the game with ally bots and battle through snow-piled town of South Park.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, it's starting to sound a bit battle royale.
Yeah,
as opposed to, I mean,
is.
I'm sure if you look up Fortnite on Steam, it's going to describe it as just a bunch of peds fucking grooming children. So I'm pretty sure that, yeah. Fallout 4 got a trailer. I like how you updated the fucking notes there, Tom.
You're welcome.
Fallout 4?
Oh, Fallout 4, no, Fallout TV show.
TV
show,
yes.
We are on the same page, though, Tom. You were talking about the TV show as well?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So Fallout TV show.
Oh, I didn't write that. That's not me.
I did.
We need to color code our notes. I'm green.
We do. So yes, the Fallout TV series got a trailer.
I thought it looks great. What did you? What issue did you have with it?
Okay, so I mean, the first thing I noticed wasn't really a complaint, but the clean blue jumpsuits just don't translate that well in real life.
I thought that looked awesome,
crisp and perfectly royal blue. Inside, we'll see what happens outside the vault. But then you get the cardboard vault door opening, and it was like, I'm sure that they probably did a full-blown CGI model, and that thing has lots of intricate gears and shit. And then it was just the lens flare from that particular shot, but it looked so cardboard. It could have been fucking cardboard. And then I just really took issue with the CGI. I think the Brotherhood of Steel's chopper things, ornithopters. They're not ornithopters, but the chopper things look too clean, dirty. If that makes sense. So they're perfect objects in 3D space with a dirty mask texture wrapped around them. And then the Brotherhood themselves look like bad video game CG. That was some really sketchy TV fucking 3D. But the desert scenes, mutants, all that sort of shit look great. But they
Dogmate's back.
They very clearly hit every iconic Fallout thing they could fucking think of in a big montage.
The ghoul looked fantastic.
The
ghoul makeup was great.
Yeah, with the missing nose.
Yeah.
It looked like an amped up, better version of Red Skull. But the mutant bears, the nuking of Washington, D.C., rad roaches, the German Shepherd, what's his name? Dead Meat?
Dogmeat.
Holding a severed fucking hand. Every iconic scene, and then the music obviously in the background. Love that music.
Yeah, when it switched from the thematic music to the 50s old, I was like, yeah, well done. Very good. Yeah.
But you just know that that was a teaser trailer. You know that the full trailer is going to start with war. War never changes. It has to.
Yeah.
It has to.
Or at least the TV show needs to start with that. You might not need that in the trailer. I would probably save that for that's the first episode.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the same kind of thing that with the armor in Rings of Power with Brotherhood of Steel. It just looked a bit.
When he was sitting there in the chopper, it was okay, but when there was three of them walking towards you, it just looked really bad.
Video. I think it was because it was in slow-mo as well.
It reminded me of a Warhammer Space Marine fucking video game trailer, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
Just anyway.
Yeah, it didn't carry the weight.
No.
One of the first comments I saw though was, "Please don't Halo this," and I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah. One thing that I took away from it was it wasn't as I went into it very skeptical.
Yeah,
I like Fallout, but I've never finished a Fallout game, and I was expecting it to be really dumb, quippy. I mean, it still could be, but really dumb, quippy dialogue, and I didn't get that from the trailer. The ghoul says a couple of lines, but it all felt very situationally aware. It didn't feel like dumb. And I know this is to become a bit of a thing, bit dumb Marvel quippy. It felt like its own thing, and it felt separate. I mean, they could still go down that path when we see more. There wasn't that much dialogue in it.
No.
If they can just stick to some of the spaghetti western vibes I got out of parts of that trailer, I would happily watch the shit out of it because it is very much set in sand and the wasteland of America. So
Vault 33, which was in San Diego, is where it's set over there. Compared to Fallout 4, which was in Boston. Fallout 3 was Vegas?
No, that was New Vegas in between 3 and
Vegas.
4.
That's
3
right,
was
yeah.
in Washington, D.C., because you were in the Washington Monument for a lot of it.
Yeah, right.
So they mustn't have nuked Washington. You see how much I know of the American landscape in the trailer. They nuked some other city, probably San Diego.
I thought that was it looked like LA because of the hills. I imagine he was riding that horse up near the Hollywood sign or whatever. I don't know. Oh well.
Anyway, who gives
Not
a shit?
important.
It's all dust now in that TV series, so who cares? Who else wrote the rest of this one then?
I did. It's all me.
Okay.
It's all me.
Okay.
We also got a new trailer for the next Witcher animated film through Netflix, which has brought back Doug Cockle, who was the voice of Geralt in the games. And so that looks, it's the same Netflix animation style. There's a bunch actually of new Netflix animated trailers, which there was Blood of Zeus season 2's coming. I can't remember if you guys watched that one. There's the Lara Croft. There's a Tomb Raider one that's coming. So Netflix are doubling down on their animated stuff, which I think is probably a smart move for them.
Great.
And definitely in that kind of Western anime style of animation as well. So it's it looks like it's rushing, but it's not as say like some of the more like traditional Japanese animes when they get into some certain movements. It's like really over the top. It hasn't got that far yet, but it's getting there. They also
it's actually been a bit of a complaint in some of the translations that I've seen recently of traditional manga into. I think it was real life. There was a manga
One Piece
series. Yes, it was One Piece, and the complaint was it's not over the top enough, and that the dynamism of the action just doesn't translate well.
Yeah. Well, that's one I've definitely got to sit down and watch that. That's something on my list to watch. We also got in the last 12 hours, we got a season 4 trailer for The Boys, which looks as over the top as ever.
Gen V's reinvigorated my love for that series. Gen V was spectacular.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in it. Yeah, we're good.
Nice.
Him and Butcher having a sit down. I was like, I hope those two get some fight scenes together. That'd be fucking sick. And I didn't watch it because I haven't seen season 1, but House of Dragons also dropped its season 2. So I'll put that in.
I'm going to watch that during the break. Thank you.
You're welcome. Game Awards are coming up this week, December 8th, for those playing at home. It'll air at 11:30 a.m. Sydney time, which is quite a nice time for a game show, to be honest. Usually it's 3 or 4 in the morning and can't be fucked getting up for that. They said it's going to be a 3-hour show. They said expect some new trailers, but it's not going to be as trailer heavy as previous years. You'll, of course, have Jeff Keighley's very punchable face. And
you say that every year.
Man, look at him. Google a picture of him.
He
Tell me
does
you don't want to
have
punch
a very
it.
punchable
Thank
face.
you. I win.
I've got a punchable personality. He's got a punchable face.
And then, we'll see who takes home Game of the Year. I distinctly hope it is Larian. Larian's up for a few.
I do too.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, but I'd be really pleasantly surprised.
They're also up for most of the awards as well. So like, fucking hope they take home some silverware. It's good for a small studio to take home the silverware.
Fuck yeah. And speaking of small studios, Bethesda and Todd Howard,
tiny studio. Yeah.
Todd Howard and his band of people that suck their own cocks continue with their bullshit.
Marilyn Manson?
Was it Prince? Was the other rumor Michael Jackson? Anyway, so their Steam review score averages have plummeted.
Oh. Dan's folded inside out.
You're right there, Dan?
Wow.
Dan's done himself
some sort of mischief.
A calamity.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy? You want to talk about it?
We'll get through the rest of this news and I'll attack this beer like I did the last one.
Okay. We don't have much to go. So Bethesda's Steam score for Starfield has plummeted from a most amazing game ever made to mixed reviews. And Bethesda's customer service have now been replying with multi-paragraph responses to some of the more negative reviewers.
Which is the worst way to do it. Just, yeah.
And a lot of them are just scripted. Like, sorry you didn't enjoy our game. Here's all the amazing stuff that you can do. And it reads like a really bad, awkward fucking customer service copy-paste script.
Yeah.
But some of them are a lot more targeted. So here's a shorter example, because there's some really solid fucking ass examples where you just want to punch these people. But a shorter example was someone complained that Starfield's 1,000 planet galaxy was boring to explore. And the rebuttal was, we are sorry that you do not like landing on different planets and are finding many of them empty. Some of Starfield's planets are meant to be empty by design, but that's not boring. The rep then quoted an interview with director Todd Howard where he said that the moon is completely empty, but the astronauts weren't bored when they landed on it.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Unless you have the most immersive gaming system, nothing is going to compare.
Your life is literally on the line.
Landing on the moon to then guiding your little pixelated fucking hobbodge of a spaceship there.
Like, it's just so tone fucking deaf. And it
he
just
doesn't care. He's Scrooge McDucking into his pile of millions.
It's just idiotic. Like, to even say those sort of things is fucking idiotic. Like,
but it is. But don't you think it's just
what's the
representative
Hall &
of
Oates song? I'm Out of Touch. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
great tune.
But don't you think it's like representative of the current generation of game and movie studios or video movie studios? Yeah, and how disconnected they are from their audience, and how many fucks they don't give anymore about the consumer. Because rewind 20 years, you would never have. I mean, it's not that you would never, but from a huge studio like Bethesda, you would never have seen it because it would have been fucking suicide for the studio. These days,
I even say Bethesda at the launch of Skyrim. If Skyrim had this kind of launch, they would have been on hands and knees begging people to come back.
Yeah.
If Marvel kept pumping out turd fucking movies the way, like 20 years ago, the way they do now, then we wouldn't have an MCU. It's just there's a complete disconnection between consumers and content producers these days. Anyway, moving on before we get too political. Sorry.
But that's just like going back to Tom's comment on I'm pulling it back here for a sec. Tom's comment there on Skyrim. If it had been that, and they said, and people who were saying, there's the place is dotted with caves and everything like that, but you go in, it's a single room, there's nothing there but a wheel of cheese. If you haven't seen Skyrim Wheel of Cheese, look it up on Google, on YouTube. Like they would have been jumping in and putting in patches to put in content and expand this content instead of going, you know what, like caves are really just one room and they're empty. There's nothing really ever lives in there. So
have you never explored a fucking cave in real life, you dicks?
Exactly. They wouldn't have said that back then. They would have been like you said, they would have been on their hands and knees. They would have been going, okay, right, we're sorry. Like so
here's a good contrast.
We'll chuck some more drug to pop out of the walls when you least expect it. Just really annoy you when you're just trying to get through a cave to the wheel of cheese. But yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, Dan, but just to contrast, so Larian, I found this really interesting. Larian was saying, so there's a particular monster that you fight in Act 1 that is extremely dangerous, and it was already dangerous in the original D&D rule set, but they tweaked the rules slightly for the video game and it ambushes you. And a lot of people were online during early access complaining they were getting absolutely party wiped instantly by this creature. And Larian Studios basically said, all right, because of your complaints, we've set up real-time analysis and we're building a heat map of how many party wipes there are on this encounter. And if there are too many, it's designed to be a difficult encounter. But if we determine through this heat map that too many people are dying, we'll tweak the encounter. We'll change the rules. It's complete contrast to no, fuck you. You're a dipshit. You don't know what a good game looks like. Our game looks great. Starfield wins. It's just complete opposites. Anyway,
that's just good. Also, that's good stats by Larian. Great stats. We love some good stats.
Yeah,
I actually would be really curious to see what that heat map came up with. Like, obviously, because I'm guessing they did change it.
I don't know. I didn't play during early access. I just know the Burette or the Buriel is still a just fucking potently dangerous monster to fight.
Sounds like a drop bear.
Just as you hit the Underdark. It's one of the first things you encounter in the Underdark. And we will talk.
Yes, that thing's fucked.
Yeah. And speaking of heat maps and stats, I've actually added a spotlight topic for the future around AI and machine learning being baked into video games these days because there's a lot more of that going on in the background than you realize.
Stats. Load up the stat rifle.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Back to you, Tom.
Back to me. Last 2 points, and then we'll get into some beers. So Nintendo have officially announced they're making a live-action Zelda film after years of rumors and
It'll be my
what's
first
going to
experience
happen.
with Zelda.
Oh, mate, you're missing out. I recently downloaded Breath of the Wild because it was Black Friday sale. Got it cheap. Oh, yeah. It is being directed by the director attached at the moment is Wes Ball, who is behind the Maze Runner series, and he has directed Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is coming out next year. Whoever wrote that red note.
Yeah, me.
Very angry. And it will be 50% financed by Nintendo, the production, and then it'll be distributed through Sony. So there you go. We'll see who. They haven't announced anyone who's behind. Obviously, I've seen a bunch of fan casting, and I fucking hate most of it. There's just, you need someone. If you want someone to play Link, it needs to be some unknown. Just needs to be an unknown, and he shouldn't fucking talk. Let's go pure Ocarina of Time. Just wah as he falls. That's all. Yeah. That's the only thing you need.
You'd need an in-series lore reason for him not to talk, though.
What?
Because the whole point of these crossovers is to grab
his tongue. Cat's got his tongue.
Is to grab more fans. But for anyone who hasn't played the games and doesn't understand why there's a mute main character, if you don't explain it, it's not going to capture that audience.
I'm pretty sure they haven't given him like a direct voice in the games. I'm pretty sure, but they've given him like a text like voice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they would need to talk. You're right. It wouldn't make much sense. It'd be a very bold move of Nintendo to do it. I'd applaud it. I'd absolutely applaud it. But I don't know if they will.
Hey, this comes back to my Sisu and Doomslayer conversation. I think they can very much do a non-verbal main character.
Yep.
Just take someone a little bit creative and some visual storytelling.
Yeah. And Wes Ball, I haven't seen the Maze Runner series, but from what I gather, the reviews I read of him quickly today, they were like that he's really good at adapting like previous run content. And obviously,
I've got to be honest, I enjoyed it.
Ton of lore around Zelda as well. So,
Maze Runner, I was a kid's. I mean, like a kind of
young teen,
young adult.
Young adult book book series turned into a TV movie
the main
series.
Character, dude, like have a hectic car accident. Had a hectic accident on set, I think.
Oh, I didn't.
They had to stop
the
production. They had to stop production for so long because he had this like super serious, like I think it was a stunt gone wrong, and like neck break or something. Like,
fuck.
He was in. Yeah, it was a few years ago. But yeah, I remember.
I mean, I enjoyed the film, but not
Amazing.
enough to read the behind the scenes book. So
yeah.
But no, the films were pretty good. They were a little bit kind of wiggly waggly in terms of plot. They lost their way and found it again a few times, but it was pretty good. I mean, it's a popcorn series, right?
I was about to say it's young adult fiction, so yeah, that's most of those plots in there.
Yeah.
And lastly, some new free games for your PlayStation. You got Lego 2K Drive, so I'm pretty sure that's building cars in Lego and driving around. How good? The weird phenomenon that is Power Wash Simulator. That's coming. I'm downloading it. Apparently, it's hilariously relaxing. It's just like the amount of people who play it after like a really shitty day and just go, "This is nice." Just cleaning, just doing it.
Making order out of chaos. There's so many channels dedicated to that, and those perfect bricklayers that tap it at the end and then all the way down the aisle. That's a thing. It's up there with ASMR.
Yeah. Buff cleaning, everything. And then Sable. Sable actually, I think looks really cool. I suggest you guys watch the trailer for that. It's the art style is like hand drawn but cell shaded at the same time. And it looks kind of like if you guys ever played Journey or like a game like that. So it's, you kind of sailing something like a sand glider through a desert, and there's a story behind it. So that's definitely one I'm going to get behind. It looks really cool.
It's supposed to be this generation's Journey.
Yeah, cool. Journey was great. I really enjoyed Journey when I played it. Yeah,
never played it.
It's super short. It was just relaxing. It was very nice. Like the music behind it was very, very soothing. It was nice. End of day, come home, just kind of glide through the sand. But yeah, that's it. That's the news. Shuffle my papers.
Cool.
All right.
Shall we
beers?
talk about our second beers? Yeah. Sorry, I'm just watching a truck that's way too wide for my street, trying to get through the street without banging into anything.
Nice.
I might go first if that's okay.
Sure.
Just because yeah.
Oh.
Just because. So this is Dangerous Ale's Phantasm Boy.
Hey, I've got that too.
Yeah. I think this came in a Tom Care package, to be honest, from Milton, New South Wales, which is weird because I'm used to saying Milton, Victoria from a past job. But anyway, it's a 5% thiolized lager. And it's okay. It's not.
It's not okay.
Ooh.
It's not in the slightest.
Is that the one
Are
you're
you
drinking
drinking-
now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Fight.
It's like you can certainly get pith, and I get more grapefruit juice and grapefruit pith out of it than anything else. But it's got this twang to it that's very specific. It's like
Wang. Yummy yums.
Mm. I'd save this one for this just because I've had now 3 thiolized ones, 3 or 4, and the Garage Project ones, great. The last one I hated, that was one of the Dangerous Ale ones, was their Gabs beer one.
Yeah, I remember that. You ripped that to shreds.
This to me is exactly the same. I can't stand it. I think it's terrible. I think it's the worst, and I wonder whether this is one of the reasons why it hasn't been more wider spread in usage in the industry.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Question: is thiolized referring to the yeast or hops? Because my Google search is leading me astray.
No, we were talking about thiols before. We had a whole discussion about it.
The Phantasm edition that comes from the green grape. It's after a wine making. It's a green grape extract of some sort that's meant to enhance hop character.
And thiols were the organosulfur compounds that make garlic smell garlicky. For example, we had I don't know if I'm trying to jog your memory because we did have a whole conversation about it. Many thiols have strong odors resembling that of garlic.
And I guess there you go. That's probably what I'm getting from it. It's that really pungent. It's a really over the top vegetal character. Now that you say garlic, that's exactly what it is. It's drawing something out of that hop character that I think is awful.
Your palate's obviously. I mean, we've talked about this before too. Your palate's a lot more developed than I am. I find the beer on the verge of being. Like, it's not offensive. It's not an offensive beer to me the way that it is to you. Yeah, no, but I'm not arguing the difference. I'm just it's just your palate. You pick it up as offensive, whereas to me, it's just an over the top grapefruit juice and pith with a twang to it that I'm not enjoying. It's not quite metallic. One of the things, just talking about thiols, one of the things it does talk about is not all thiols have unpleasant odors. For example, furin to methanthiol contributes to the aroma of roasted coffee, whereas grapefruit mercaptan is a thiol responsible for the characteristic scent of grapefruit. So it's probably what we're getting, but it's a synthetically derived natural compound, if that makes sense. So we're manufacturing it. But it does exist in the free world, in nature. Anyway, I'm going to give it a 2.5. And Dan's going to give it his score, and then I guess we'll average it. Which you can now give a 0 because of my little speech, because then you can average it. Usually you can't give a 0 in Untapped.
You can. You just leave it unrated.
Yeah, I think that's where I need to go. I think I need to not rate it. I
put him down as a DNF. Didn't finish.
Yeah, 100. There you go. It's definitely a DNF.
Actually,
because
I put it as a DNR because did not rate and do not resuscitate. Works out well either way. All right, over to you, Tom.
Well,
I'm going to go and find myself another beer.
I'm going to pull out of the thiolized. I was just reading about thiolized yeast before Dan runs away, but we'll talk about it later. We'll talk it off. I'm drinking deliciousness. I obviously make good choices. No, I had no idea this beer was coming, so this is great. This is my second advent calendar beer for the day. This is from the Beer Cartel advent calendar. It's called Dapper. Yes, that is tweed, not actual tweed on the can. It's New England Brewing. It's an extra special bitter. It comes in at 5.5%. I apologize, Peter. I realized I probably didn't say the ABV on my first beer, but I know that you wrote it in the show notes.
I did.
It is just a hands down ESB.
Oh, yeah.
It's delicious. It's malty, a little bit of honey in there. There's like nutty. It's nuttiness.
Is it chewy?
Yeah, chewy. I wouldn't say it's chewy. Like
you're not into you're not in the red ale kind of territory there.
No. Like color wise, it looks almost red ale, but no, it is. It is definitely. I'd say it's more akin to a brown ale than red. Definitely doesn't have any of that hoppiness you normally get with a red ale. It is very well made. It's like this is the kind of beer that I would expect New England to do really well. It's colder climate up there in Urala.
Yep.
It is. Yeah, this is definitely one I'd happily sit there. Like you want to have a sandwich, like a really nice ham sandwich with this, like really crusty bread.
Isn't it funny how life just throws random shit at you like that? So sorry, I'll let you keep talking about your beer. Yeah.
Love a ham sambo, don't get me wrong, but like really soft inner bread, but really like thick crust that kind of cuts through for your mouth a little, and you really hate it. But but
you want the cheese cut like a rough and thick as fuck.
Yeah. It's old school kind of cheese cut, but and just that with this, it's or like a plowman's platter. It's definitely one of those you feel like you're taken back 100 years.
It's coming up to Christmas, so ham off the bones, Yeah, that's Christmas for me.
Started. Whole ham in the fridge just for Tom. Oh, good.
And the bone for Jasper.
Yes. He passed out right next to me. Out
of 5?
Out of 5, that's a 4.5. It's very, very good. Very, nice. Very good. I again hope this gets re-released. This is also nice. This is I'm going to throw some shit at Beer Cartel. This is the first beer. It's been 3 beers, but this is the first one out of the 3 that hasn't come like almost syrup-like and snow globy, like with the amount of fucking proteins floating in it.
That coagulated protein in that last one that you showed us was pretty bad.
And I had one last night. It was a Mountain Culture beer, and it was just like, what? Like I've had plenty of Mountain Culture beers, and they rarely have that kind of protein like separation. I don't know if it comes down to their storage, but look, you've bounced back now, Beer Cartel, so I won't lay siege to your fortress because I know where you are, and you could get a trebuchet down their driveway.
That's just up the road from my place.
Yeah,
that's who I'm going to have to go to moving forward.
But so this is very good. Dan, you probably missed all of it, but I'm having the ESB from New England. Dapper.
Oh, nice. Yeah, okay.
Very, very good. Yeah.
Goes with Dan's hat.
You would wear that hat. As I was saying.
I'm not knocking it. I've got one just like it, but it's actually tartan in the other room. I just don't pull it off nearly as well as you do.
Yeah. That's that. Really hope they get another release of it. So keep an eye out.
Let's move on to Dan's review of Return to Moria.
It's not exactly a mini review, but
no.
it's a review.
That's why I didn't describe it as a mini review.
I actually had to write notes, which I've never done before. Obviously this was a big one for the learning after 7 years of doing this or something. Actually, be semi-prepared. Obviously, it came out in the last episode or last main episode that I was very much excited for Return to Moria because I like building games and I like Lord of the Rings and I like dwarves even more. So it was one of those big things. I want to come up straight and say yes. I'm going to talk about a lot of things that I think were bad about this, but I did actually enjoy my time with it, and I'm glad I played through and finished it. It was very enjoyable, and I am looking forward to going back in maybe a year or two if they do some pretty strong patches and updates and playing through again. I think it's something that they can take on board and actually make it a really standout, solid addition to that genre of games, but also Lord of the Rings games. I think it's one of those big things. The story is pretty basic. It's in there in the title, Return to Moria. The dwarves are heading back to Moria under Gimli's direction.
Why?
And
why? Why it makes no sense.
Well, apparently it is taken from some of the lore that they did return to the Moria
fucking sources
in the Fourth Age. Oh, I was relying on you for those sources, but apparently it is part of lore that they did go back at some stage. I'm not sure if it was led by Gimli.
I'm getting the companion out.
Yeah. They get, so in the intro cutscene they get to Moria and the doors are magically sealed through some dark nefarious magic, and so they try and blast their way in, and you end up caught in a blast.
Wait, which doors do they go through? Sorry, I've got a lot of questions.
I can't remember.
This is going to be a whole episode.
That was weeks ago, man. I can't remember that one.
In retrospect, this really should have been a whole update.
Just Tom ripping. Yeah, I don't know that.
Could have been the episode that I was away for.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get away. I'm going to get away from lore in a sec. And the doors are sealed, and that is the main premise of the game, is to unlock the main doors.
So it's more like Escape from Moria than Return
It is
to
more
Moria.
like, that's exactly what it is. It is Escape from Moria. That's 110% of what it is. Because once you're in, there's no fucking way out until you finish it. So that's actually.
Did you design your dwarf
name.
with an eye patch then, so he could be Snake?
Snake Plissken. I didn't think of that. I wish I did, because I would have done black head and stubble with an eye patch. Because I think you can put an eye patch on him.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I have to look at that. I have to go back into the dwarf creator and see what happens. Enjoyment, yes, I thought it was fun. The last area of the game was incredibly frustrating. The whole overall premise of it is set as a building game, but you don't actually have to do that much building or anything, because it's not a voxel game like Minecraft. It's not everything is diggable and everything is destroyable. Only certain patches are diggable, and that's all around the ores and moving to the next room, because there's collapsed dirt separating rooms. So you got to dig through, and they use it as a roadblock for story elements, that you have to have a better pickaxe to get through compacted dirt and stone and things like that. So they use it as a push to create better equipment as you go along.
And as a wall to not let you move into an area you're not prepared for yet.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
So it's a gate.
Yeah, it's definitely a design gameplay element. I would have much preferred to have a certain amount of influence on the environment where you are, which is a bit disappointing. So my Friday night crew, Kel, Suey, and Steve, when we all play, we've been playing some building games recently, and we got into Valheim first. And we call it the Valheim Defense. Whichever building game we get into, we call it the Valheim Defense, where we dig a trench around our base, and that trench, as our base expands, that trench expands with our base as well. And that, in most building games, is enough for you to be able to defend with a lower number of people a base attack. You can't do that in this because you can't influence the terrain. So you have to find somewhere. I don't know how procedurally generated the world is. I know it is to a certain extent, but I don't know if that's rooms or the way the world looks, or if it's a bigger influence there. But I found this point in the second area, which I made my camp, and it had a natural defense. It had about a 6-foot natural brick wall with only 2 points of entry, and I was able to barricade those 2 points of entry. The orcs and the goblins can't jump, so you can literally have a waist-high wall that they can't get over. So I did that, and my 2 points of entry, and I was able to take on sieges on my own. So that I never became in there. So that was my Moria defense, finding that natural outcropping to build on. It's full of bugs and glitches at the moment. My playthrough, so they've only released one patch so far. And that was to deal with some gameplay element glitches around load times and fast travel, where it got stuck in load screens. They actually addressed a few more things that they didn't even put in the patch notes. Like the exhaustion system was like incredibly frustrating when we first started playing, which leads me to believe, and I think I've put this in my notes, I don't know where I've put it. That
you have.
Yeah, in this one is... They've released this as an early access game. They were using day one purchasing people as playtesters because there is no way this game was at its optimal level. Yeah, it's much smaller as well. So
less excuse.
Yeah, we were used as guinea pigs. We were used as gameplay testers, which is incredibly frustrating because I won't touch the game now for another year or two. Yeah, until they fix things. Because I mean, it would be as a solo player, some of them were a little frustrating and could have been game inhibiting. Like where I would log out of the game, I wouldn't necessarily load straight back into. I could be literally on the other side of that biome. Luckily, I'd cleared out that biome, so it was a clean run straight back to my base where I logged out of without trouble. But if I had logged back in and was on literally the opposite side of one of the dangerous biomes, it would have been completely frustrating, or in a harder game, something damn near impossible to get back to my base area to pick up extra supplies to survive that biome. Luckily, I did it in one of the smaller biomes, the Elven Quarter, and it was pretty easy just to run across, and I'd cleared the area by the time I reached this glitch anyway. But it would also drop some items out of your inventory. So you pick up notes from a ranger that had gone through the Mines of Moria, and you find their camp, and you can add the pages of their journal back in, and that gives you certain crafting recipes and things like that as well. It would just drop them out of your inventory, and you would go back to where you logged out, and there's an urn that appears when you die where you can re-pick up all your stuff, and the pages were just sitting in that urn. So there's glitches like that. But the two biggest glitches I met, the two boss fights, the two big main boss fights, one's about halfway through the game and one's at the end of the game, completely bugged out. Like, as a solo player, the first one I went into, I'm not going to spoil what it's up against, but the first one I went into,
fucking Balrog, because then I'm gonna go punch someone in the fucking throat.
No, it's
going to be a troll.
Yeah, it is. It's a troll.
They have a cave troll.
It's the troll king. It's the troll king. And I prepared for it. I created a teleport point back to my camp right outside the boss fight. I went and dropped everything that I didn't need. I loaded up on like shields and arrows and everything to go into this boss fight.
You took all the right potions.
I took all, their potions are done through ales in this. So I did all that.
That's a nice touch. It was a Witcher 3 reference.
Yeah. I loaded up on all my buffs when I went in, and it was a difficult fight for about 30 seconds. And then he did one of his powers and got stuck in a corner. And I'm like, fuck, you know what? I could reload and do all of this again, or I can just kill him and move on. And I just walked up behind him and just wailed on him until he fell over. And that was it. And that was the big boss. Like,
surely if you're play testing a game, if you're paying people to test your game, that would be a focal area is, okay, we've only got 6 bosses in our entire game. Can you just go kill them like all 6 in a row over and over and over again, please? Just tell us what happens. Like, seriously.
Completely agree. Agree. And then the whole big bad of the entire game, I got to it and glitched out as well. And it was firing off all of its attacks just into a solid stone wall.
So it's a tantric video game. It takes hours and hours, and there's no payoff at the end.
That's 100%. Yeah, it was that fight was so disappointing, and it was also, man, I could reload, but this could just glitch again. Or worse, it could completely kick my ass, because if it's that glitchy and that unbalanced, I might not be able to finish it on my own. I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I'm this close to the end. I'm over it, because the final biome area was so fucking frustrating that I'm just like, just finish it. Just do it. Be done with it. Walk away for a couple of years and come back to it when they've fixed all these things. So huge glitches. One of the main things, the Khazard stone, which is kind of like the Arkenstone from the Hobbit guys, the Hobbit dwarves are going to get in the Misty Mountain. The Khazad Stone's the one for Moria in this game. I'm hoping it's lore and canon. It was. I had to Google where it was in the game after I'd beaten the final boss because I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I saw your note on that.
It was
actually
when it told me where it was, I'm like, you fucking serious? I passed that point in the game dozens of times. And I went back to it, and I looked down, and there's this one little red-colored, or I'm pretty sure it was red-colored, pixel in a pile of fucking dirt that I aimed down. It said pick up, and I picked it up, and they're like, that's how I finished the game, because I got to the exit door for Moria, and it goes, oh no, you haven't got this stone to give to Thorin, so I need to go back in and find it. And that I'm like, you fucking serious? Like, it's in that last section that was the shittest area in a video game that I've played. And it wanted me to go back in there. So I'm like, I'm Googling where this is because there's no fucking way that... And because the map's slightly different for everybody, I was a bit worried that it was going to say, oh, well, no, you just got to walk around until you find it. But it was in a specific... It was in a specific point that is the same for everybody. And so I picked it up, and that was it. Like, there was no way. I walked past this point several times and missed it every time. And that was a terrible glitch. Like, that should have been something that was much more clear. I'll blast through the rest of this. The art style is much more cartoony than, say, the Shadow of War games or the Peter Jackson movies.
So is it kind of World of Warcraft cartoony?
Yeah, kind of along that way. Not quite to that level, but it is much different. It is more the cartoon style of things. The trolls look like the rock eaters from Neverending Story. I couldn't work out where they were. And I had to Google trolls in movies and go through the images until I found the one that it was. And I'm like, that's exactly what they are.
Fucking another Jim Henson masterpiece. Yes.
So the art style is it's nice. It's good. All the dwarvish armor and the buildings and that look excellent. It is really good on that side of it. The animations of the dwarf moving are really good. You can do a combat roll, which is actually really fluid, and if you pull it off at the right time, is quite satisfying. The gameplay loop itself is okay. You kind of move along through the areas, and you can see where they want you to set up settlements because there's a broken down forge and a broken down half, or there's an area that is clearly you can see it's defensible. Where they want you to set up a camp. I didn't get past the second zone. I'd made my camp there and just took enough ingredients with me to make warp waypoints, map points. Wherever I found something, I would drop a waypoint, and then I would just pull back to my main base to do that. So it's fun to start with, where you don't have much ingredients or anything, and you kind of need to move to the next area. More. You need to make a little camp just to survive because you can't get back to your next one, and then you just find more ingredients, and then you just give up on it, and you just keep your main base. Your upgrades are good. The satisfaction of getting more minerals to move forward is good. That last biome that I was talking about, which is it's just a rehash of bits and pieces from the first ones. And it's so frustrating. Some of the rooms are just, I think I went through about 4 or 5 rooms in almost a loop that were mirror image of each other. They were absolutely identical, down to the ores that were on the walls. And you would just do this. You would go and find goblins, go to the next room, and then you just would make a loop back. And it was fucking frustrating. Rocks would be constantly falling from the ceiling, knocking you off things. It was vertical when the vertical gameplay isn't very good. The ladders and the platform placing is a bit dodgy. It's a much better game on a level platform. So that last biome was fucking horrible and needs a serious overhaul. All the orc camps, there's one major orc camp in each area, which is just a mirror image of each other. So once you know the layout of the first one, super boring, roll through. The bosses in the same arena. The arena looks exactly the same all the way through. And the actual player map is terrible, especially in that last area where it's there's a lot of verticality. It only shows you the level you're on. It doesn't show you the levels you've been to, and you can't flick through your map levels. So, and it doesn't mark where the next rooms are on your map. So you kind of flailing in the dark to going up and down this bad verticality traversal system to try and find rooms that you haven't been into to at least try and find the next objective. I feel like the Lord of the Rings maps are absolutely beautiful in all of the other media. So it could have been something that could have been one of the most gorgeous points of the game, with like dwarven written rune notes all over it and everything like that. But it just...
Here be dragons.
The things like that. I mean, it should mark those things automatically for you and mark where ores are and things like that, especially if you tag them. It could have been a really beautiful player map. So I think that's a really big I called it bland, boring, and broken is how I named the map. Yeah, overall, once again,
seems like it's a description for the whole game, Dan.
Yeah,
bland, boring, and broken.
Yeah. The biggest thing I spoke to you guys about it, the most beautiful part about it is the songs. It was really great to get back to the camp when I needed to rest, and I brewed a brew called Evening Ale, and you would drink the Evening Ale, and it would give you a buff when you woke up. But to get that buff, you need to hold E to drink the beer, but he will then sing a verse of a song as it goes through. And I think they probably were all original songs, and they were My Girl's Beard's as Bright as Brass, the story of the Hobbit naming all the dwarves and when they get to Bilbo's place, and the running amok there, and a few other bits and pieces. The singing then continued into mining. You would start singing when you were mining ore, and you would then gain inspiration that didn't use stamina when you were mining ore. You would then sing songs at the statues of Durin, at one of the library pillars. Every main point you would sing a song to open a door, and they were extremely well done. Like, it would start off just with the dwarf singing, and then the big background chorus and orchestra would come in and continue off the last little bit of the song. And some of it was sung in English, some of it was sung in Dwarvish. And that to me was the jewel in this game. And it was one of the big things that kept me going through and pushing through. That's it. I've probably got more to say, but I've talked long enough myself. But
that's a 20-minute review, so that's a solid. That's definitely not a mini review.
I've got some stuff to say because I did some research in the background.
Yes. Go.
So you said they entered through the doors of Durin. These were the doors that the Watcher in the Water destroyed when the Fellowship entered. They were not rebuilt, according to Tolkien letters, until Khazad-dûm or Moria was resettled by the dwarves, which didn't happen until sometime after the Fourth Age year 171, and Gimli accompanied Legolas to the Undying Lands in Fourth Age 120. So you can't have entered by the doors of Durin. Cop that, you dogs. But they do say that Thorin Stoneheld III, who was at the Council of Elrond, he did send so Gimli was at this point was in the Glittering Caves at Helm's Deep. That's where he'd established his... Did they talk about that, at least?
No, not at all.
Fucking dogs. That's the best part. Gimli goes after, because in the books, he's so obsessed with the Glittering Caves that then he decides to settle there and mine them. So yes, Thorin Stonehelm, who was Dane Ironfoot's son. Dane Ironfoot was played by Billy Connolly in the Hobbit films. He rode the big goat.
Okay. Yep.
So his son was the King of Erebor, the Lonely Mountain. He did send dwarves to mine mithril from Moria, but it wasn't resettled. It wasn't resettled until well after the year 171 in the Fourth Age, where Thorin's son Durin the Seventh, or Durin the Last, who was the last reincarnation of Durin the Deathless, eventually did resettle Moria, and they stayed there until the dwarves faded out of existence.
But it doesn't sound like this game you're settling Moria. It's more like you've entered and then got trapped.
Yeah. So the idea is to settled, yes, and that's at the end of the game. You do get. I'm just going to spoil this. You do get made Lord of Moria because you open the door for them to get in. I don't know where you get lordship out of that, but anyway. You mentioned
I broke into someone's house and opened the front door. I own the house.
Squatters' rights, baby. Squatters' rights.
You are there under the orders of the king, so I guess it kind of makes sense. But you mentioned Mithril. So Mithril is the last ore that you get in the game, and the only way when you get to the deep dark, because the paths through the mine are all locked, so you've got to find alternate routes.
Yeah.
So you go into this, it's called the Crystal Descent, and you end up in the deep dark, which has got really cool sort of mushrooms and like glowing crystals and things like that. It's a pretty nice area to get into. But then within the deep dark, there's cracks in the terrain which lead into the deepest dark. And so you make platforms and ladders and get down into the deepest dark, which you can only spend a certain time in there because you end up with despair, which takes health off you.
Yeah.
And this is where you can get the rare gems. And you need rubies and that to make some of the better weapons in the early areas. But then in the last section, this is where you mine mithril from. So I started to get down into these deepest dark because they're fun, because there's a bit of a time limit on there. You can only stay down for a certain time and this and that. But
it's like in God of War when you go to the misty, the poison mist realms.
Yes, that's exactly what it's like. Yeah, you can only spend a certain time in there.
Yeah,
and so I found those breaks in that monotonous gameplay very interesting and quite fun.
Yeah.
So I mined a bunch of mithril because I found one that was really great. I set up a waypoint stone in there, so I was able to teleport out before I was sort of too damaged. Got all this mithril, and you can only make one thing out of mithril. You can only make one weapon, a spear, to kill the big bad of the game. And that's it. You can't make anything more. So there's so
much out of mithril.
But there's so much abundance of this ore. In all of the ores, there's an absolute abundance of it. But you don't actually make that much out of any of it. Like there's not options for like different types of armor or anything to make out of each of the ores that you find, which would be fun, and then make armor stands and put them up, and it would be an expanse on the gameplay. There's only one set of armor you can make out of each ore. So you get enough of that ore to make your weapons and your armor, and then you just don't get any more because you don't need it. So the mithril, all that extra mithril that I mined, you don't need it. Like I got enough to make this one weapon, and then I thought, oh, surely as I get along, there's going to be an armor set and some bits and pieces to go with it. But there's not. There's just that one weapon, and that was really disappointing, especially for how abundant it is once you get into the deepest dark in that area.
Yeah.
It was really disappointing. Yeah.
Well,
there was more in there that I didn't mention, but I'm not going to go into that.
Doesn't matter. I feel vindicated. I win. Thank you very much.
As predicted, it was a turd.
They just threw Gimli in there because it was a name that everybody did. They would have thrown a bunch of...
I get why they did it, but they're wrong.
They shouldn't have. Yeah, I agree. I think it would have been better if they'd stuck to the proper lore.
To the Dwarves of Erebor, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I also am going to talk about Shadow of War later, so...
Yes. Oh, well,
there's a departure.
Yeah. Oof.
I think on that note, we should probably take a break.
Probably a good idea.
We'll come back for our next review. Stay tuned, avid listeners.
Hey. Hey.
We have returned. And apparently we're ready for our third beer review.
Absolutely. Oh, hello.
Ooh. Looks chewy.
No, it's not. It's it is. I guess it is a little bit. I'm going first now. So there's a new Australian malt supplier called AMSAT out of South Australia. Let me look up. I did have it here open. Australian Malters Serving Services and Technology out of South Australia, which are distributed by Ellerslie Hops. We're customers of Ellerslie Hops. So got invited to the AMSAT sort of announcement thing over at Dad and Dave's in Brookvale last week, where I got to taste the malts, talk to the maltster about what they're doing, and they'd actually brewed 2 beers with these new malts. So we got some of these beers to take home with us. I tried each one of them, and then I'm like, got to talk about these on the podcast because this one's made by Archer Brewing in Brisbane. It's a crystal lager, so it's a crystal malt lager, but also the I would call that also crystal clear as well.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a beautiful clear, deep amber crystal malt lager. It's got that really nice light caramel with a touch of sort of biscuity malt character coming through there as well. It does have Pete's favorite word, so a little bit of residual sugar there for a lager, but it's not super chewy, but there is definitely a larger body to it. But the freshness of this fucking specialty Australian malt coming out of South Australia just gives this brightness in flavor to these products. It's like, people not on the production side of it, most of our specialty malts come from UK or Germany.
Yeah.
There is Gladfield malt over in New Zealand, but only a select amount of people use them because they have big distribution, but you can't always get what you want because they do smaller batches and they're pretty highly sought after. Then you've got Voyager malt, which is a New South Wales one, and now we've got these guys. And malt is a food product, so the fresher we can get it, the better the flavor expression it's going to be. And these beers, the malt expression on these two beers is unlike any beers I've ever had. Even ones I've made and tasted fresh out of tank have never had the clarity of malt expression like these beers have. So
yeah, wow.
I'm really excited to try these malts out in some of our brews, because if we can do half to three quarters of what they've done with these two beers, then I'll be a very happy camper. So these two, the next one is an American brown ale made with their chocolate malt and their dark crystal, and it's phenomenal.
You're
as well.
selling it.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if these beers are available
on market.
Yeah,
so there's only 4 check-ins on Untapped, so probably not.
They're probably they did. Ellersly's been doing state by state the malt tastings with these beers, so they're probably all industry people, I'd say, that have been to these things. So, Archer, Gareth, who I went to uni with, started Archer with his brother-in-law out of Brisbane, so got a bit of a connection there. But fucking phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I love these, and they're such easy drinkers because the flavor expression is just wonderful, and they're not palate killers either, because they're designed to give that malt the heroes of the malt rather than be a sort of super hop and anything forward. So,
well, there you go.
Beer.
Out of 5?
You know what? Unquestionably, this is a 5. I think just the freshness and the flavor expression on it are just absolutely so outstanding, that it needs to be marked a 5. And the simplicity of it too, like there's so little
overcomplicated it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's so little going on there that coming off that thiol product, that this is just a back to basic simplicity, well made with wonderful ingredients. It's just it's next level.
Nice.
You go, Peter.
Okay. I am drinking Bracket Brewing. This is the way. Which has all the hops that we've talked about a bazillion times: Idaho 7 Citra and Chinook. It's a West Coast IPA at 6.2%. And it is exactly what you would expect. It's a nice, bright, bitter IPA. It's
holding up quite well, I must say, because I had one the other day as well, and this was brewed for May 4th, and it's still holding up.
Yep, I had one. I thought it was pretty good too.
Yeah, bit of haze protein through it now. It's funny because I fucked up my pour, so I had quite a big head on it. Let it settle, and then poured out the last, I don't know, half an inch from the bottom of the can, and it went from perfectly clear to just hazy as fuck. Some floaties in there.
Yeah.
It's very bitter. So exactly, it's right up Dan's alley, actually. And it's got lots of, I don't want to say tropical juice because that's not what it is. It's more, again, it's pith. It's on the bitterer side of a citrus fruit, if that makes sense. But it is quite bright as well. So, yeah. I'm going to give it a 4.25 because there's not much more you could ask for out of a beer like that. It's expressing exactly what you'd expect from, like, Chinook especially, and Citra. They're very bold hops that you know the flavors of. So, and that's what I'm getting.
Excellent.
Good.
I didn't write anything down, so now I've got to remember my own score.
Thomas seems perplexed.
It's growing on me. I am drinking the Tangerine Dream from Chur Brewing Company.
Chur.
Chur. So this is one of their brews from Chur Behemoth. So this is from New Zealand, from Auckland. It is a Tangerine Brute IPA. Remember Brute IPAs? They're back. They're coming back with a vengeance.
No, they're not.
No, I know they're not. I couldn't even finish that sentence without calling out my own lie. So it's Simcoe and Mosaic, and it's just, I don't know. The more I've gotten into it, I've started to get some of like the tangerine-y, the melony flavors, but it's been slow to get there. It's not as dry as I remember a brewed IPA being. I remember they were like bone dry. They were going for that like whole champagne-y feel. This is quite dry, but not like that bone dry. And yeah, there's just, I don't know if it's like, it's almost like overly pithy, and it doesn't meld well with the flavors I would expect to get out of it. I don't know. It's like, it's just not quite working for me the way I thought it would. I thought it would be a bit more refreshing with that dryness. I know it's kind of, no, it's not really like polarizing flavors. I guess it's just, it's dry, but it is like a refreshing up front. It's dry on the back. And yeah, the like tangerine, they say mango and pineapple. I'm getting like 0 pineapple, little bit of mango, but it's like when the mango's kind of been in the fridge for a day too long and it's not quite nice mango. Yeah, I don't know. It pours like it's like poured quite well. Like there was nothing else in it. There was no like floaters in it to give like heaps of that extra bitterness. Sometimes you get with those when like just a chunk of trub drops in there and you go, well, fuck. There goes my
rating
palate.
doubles. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. I expected more, I think, is where I'm at. I expected better.
That's always been my opinion of any brute IPA I've ever had. And I've always gone into it with every expectation that you just said there as well. Really dry, nice and refreshing. Like just because there's no residual sugar in there, they basically go down to balancing with water on a gravity scale. And it just, you expect all that extra flavor and that to pop there. But I've always been disappointed in every single one I've ever had.
Yeah, and so this is like, I've poured out the end of the can now, and I am definitely getting more of those like those like tangerine citrusy flavors and like a little bit of the mango. But yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, exactly. It's just not what I expected. The can art though is fantastic.
Cans are always good.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
Yeah,
but it's not making me do that. So the can has lied to me. You're a liar. I hate you. Hate you, little Chur.
There's only been one check-in on Untapped for this beer.
There you go.
Ironically, from Tom Sellers in North Turramurra. There you go, Tom. But I don't know.
Tom Sellers? It's a good little bottle shop.
It's clearly the same beer, same artwork, same description, same everything. So I don't understand how it's only got one check-in. Can't be that.
Yeah, wow.
Well, unless that's done under Chur, and then you got a whole bunch of people in New Zealand checking it in under Behemoth.
Yeah,
they have that issue with.
That's a good possibility. Yep. Out of 5?
3.5.
3.5. You're allowed to have an opinion, you know.
No, I know I'm allowed to have an opinion. It's just I think I wanted to enjoy this one more.
Yeah.
And yeah. Anyway, that's life, I guess. Wow.
All right, we're not gonna race through, but we are going to get through another review.
Because we've all watched something for once.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare these days. The Creator. actually don't know who directed it. I watched
Gareth
Gareth
Edwards.
Edwards.
Thank you.
Hence my little joke. Rogue 2.
Rogue One. Yeah.
So Gareth Edwards directed this one. He also filmed most of it. If you watch the behind the scenes, I found it's like a 1 hour long behind the scenes movie about the movie, and it was fascinating from start to finish.
Yeah,
he's a fascinating dude. He loves film, and it's just and he's got. I think he's got, because he's roughly our age. I think he might be a bit younger, but I think he's very much on that spectrum of where I feel like we are now in cinema as well. That these one-shot, wonderfully told, beautifully filmed stories is what we need as a palate cleanser.
Yes.
To go for a callback.
Well, not as a palate cleanser. I actually think we need to restore the storytelling in cinema, and he's not unique, but he's one of the few directors who are very clearly passionate about storytelling above everything else.
Yeah.
So the idea of we're going to spend 95% of our budget on, and of which there was scarce little budget,
80 million.
Yeah, which is fuck all considering most of these monsters are 500 million to $1 billion in production cost these days by the time you add advertising. So 80 million is a pittance. But he declared right up front he's going to spend 90% of it in post in adding CGI and forcing him to essentially become a run and gun guerrilla cinematographer that he likened to a war cinematographer.
And it comes
a lot of
100%. Yeah.
And it's shaky cam, like without the ugliness that is Blair Witch Project shaky cam. Like you can tell it's not on a dolly. They're not perfect smooth motion moves.
It was shot, Pete, on a Sony FX3, which is an entry level full frame cinematic camera.
Yep. So it's the Sony. It's the Sony equivalent of the camera that I'm shooting this on right now. Because as soon as he mentioned it, of course, I fucking Googled the FX3. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and he had an anamorphic lens, which he then de-squeezed, which is, a whole cinema style choice around the way that images are captured on those anamorphic lenses. It's got a very specific style to them. But just the way that he described about how he just moves around the actors and just make them do 1,000 takes until he nails what he was going for. Yeah. Anyway, I'm a massive fan after watching that. I'm a fanboy after watching the behind the scenes film.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you just go on something you said there, I mean, most of the actors there are relatively unknowns as well. Obviously, the core main cast.
Yeah.
I've got them here because I couldn't remember the names. John David Washington, obviously a big one. Gemma Chan's been in a lot. Ken Watanabe. Always pops up, always fucking amazing. And Alison Janney and Janie?
Yeah, Alison
Janney, in a role that is not what she is typically in and fucking nails it. Like, you can just see that he has gone, you are the right person for this role. Like, and then the rest of the cast, basically unknown. Like, I greatly apologize to anybody else. Like, Benedict Wong's in the casting as well. I don't remember seeing Benedict Wong in there anywhere, but and I don't remember seeing Danny McBride in there anywhere either. But anyway.
So that's Benedict Wong was originally meant to be Ken Watanabe's character, but he dropped out.
Oh, okay, right. I mean, Ken Watanabe is just phenomenal.
He's fucking boss man.
He's always amazing. Everything he does, and always has this stoic.
It's samurai energy.
Oh, it's just what he does.
The only way I can describe it.
Fucking owns it when he doesn't even say anything. He just is just one of those.
He's got that look. It's the look.
Yeah. And then the young Sim, the Madeline Una Voiles.
Yep.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
I would have gone with.
God,
are any of us authorities?
Madeline Una Voiles.
That kid can fucking act like that.
Yeah, she gets a lot out of very few lines.
Oh boy, and with only half a head, it's like Good
Hate to
God.
break it to you, but that was animation. She has a full head.
but the supporting cast as well. So where I was at is like he's got this 4 or 5 core great actors that he has obviously handpicked that were specific for the roles, and they all nail it. And however many takes he took for this, the shots and the dialogue,
I actually think he did that on purpose. Got to be honest. I think that whole concept of I'm going to make you do it so often that you're exhausted and you stop acting because you forgot to act.
Yeah,
and a lot of it, and you know that only works for certain dialogue and certain specific plot points, but it shows in the movie. They're in a continuous run from the authorities. And so you would expect them to be exhausted and at wit's end and on that point of frustration and on the point of giving up. And I think the immediacy of exhausted actors translates really well into the story.
Yeah. Should we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Should we give a quick 30-second breakdown of what this is about?
No, but I'm sure I could wrap one. I mean, it's set in the near future. Artificial intelligence was accepted by the world in robots, in independent robot units, because, you know, we talk about, you can't even say that anymore, right? It's 2023 and AI is already everywhere in real life. So yeah, in independent robots, it's very Chappie-esque in their, you know, the
design.
Robot units. And then the AI is accused of nuking, I think it was New York?
Los Angeles.
LA. Nuked LA. And we're essentially outlawed by America and a group of countries wrapped around America, so probably like the G8. Artificial intelligence has essentially withdrawn to Southeast Asia to hide from the big geopolitical countries and are essentially being hunted down by America. And it's very... I mean,
it's accepted in the East and banned in the West,
Yeah, but it's very much Southeast Asia. It's not even the East because it's kind of Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand. Yeah.
Oh, they end
that
up
kind
in
of
like
chain.
Nepal. Like,
true.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the basic premise, and then against that backdrop, a agent working for the US government has been seeded as an undercover operative to try and find the creator of modern AI. And then some bad stuff happens to him, and that's kind of the starting point for the movie. Really, I think. There you go.
Well, actually, I think it's really important to. I think it's really important to add to that they do overshadow this because it was overshadowed in the trailers. But then the whole thing that is overshadowing constantly is the Nomad. The Nomad is ever present, and that's established pretty early on. That there's the Nomad is this giant. It's Big Brother space station military like.
Yeah. But it's a representation of and like you can't not look at this politically. No. In my opinion, right? Nomad is a representation of what's going on in America at the moment in terms of US governmental overreach, over surveillance, and over control of its population. And that's
literally called the North American Defense something. That's what Nomad stands for.
Yeah. And they made no secret that it was a US satellite missile defense platform. Like bombing Southeast Asia with zero repercussion.
Yeah.
So
it literally just gets called in. You see the big blue light, and you go, "Well, we're fucked."
Fucking scary ass. Like he did a really great job of that, but the cinematography was a really great balance between absolute beauty, or like natural beauty, and like lightning storms in the distance, and these massive establishing shots,
great
and
scenic shots,
messes, and all the rest of it. Like the beauty of Southeast Asia set against the backdrop of like futuristic tech, and you know this Nomad platform wandering around bombing shit. To me, it was very District 9.
It's a love letter. But what I can see in there is I can definitely see Neil Blomkamp, which is District 9, Chappie. Elysium. It was very
much Elysium. But Elysium was derivative of District 9 and Chappie as well.
Yeah, well, it came in between the two.
I was way back. I was just Nam. It was Vietnam stories.
But that goes back to
movies, Blade Runner with some Star Wars elements thrown in there.
Yep, particularly when they're in. I think they ended up in. Did they end up in China or Japan at one stage? It was Japan, I'm sure. There was one stage in the middle of the movie where he was in a major Asian city. I thought was Japan. Might not Might
They
not have
don't-
been,
It's called something else, but yeah, they don't name it as a city that I reckon.
but it has like a
The checkpoint? Are you talking about the checkpoint bit?
Yes,
When he's in the back
I
of the
am.
van? Yeah.
Yeah, it had like a Times Square style. You know, you often see that shot from, I think, Tokyo, in the middle of Tokyo. That's with all the massive screens. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I just it's one of the best movies I've seen this year, without any doubt.
Completely agree. I think it's one of the best sci-fi movies of the last 10, 20 years. It's well up there with the Blade Runners and that for me. It's well thought out. It's emotional. The characters are established without going overboard. Their motivations are justified. That especially comes around the John David Washington and the Allison Janney characters. Their motivations on opposing sides of this story are completely justified in very little
Establishment.
storytelling.
I think you summed it up really well. I think you wrote somewhere in the notes that they do a shitload of showing, not telling,
through the entire thing. And there is a little bit of telling as well when it comes around some stuff, but they don't treat the viewer as an idiot that hasn't been told a story or seen a movie or seen a TV show. They treat them like this is an established world. You understand the basic elements of, because it's not that far from our world and you know where our world is at the moment. So I'm going to put this element here and I'm not even going to explain it to you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to show you what happens. And this really came around the dying soldier scene where she put the extraction of the mind and put it into the sim. And then the other one was the fucking suicide bomber robots. Sorry, spoilers here, people.
I don't think they're spoilers. You're not. Yeah, their existence isn't a spoiler.
That establishment of a soldier talking to the commander about, hey, I'm setting this robot to do this, and then they show us.
Yeah.
They show us. It's literally off and running. And you go, oh, fuck, where is this going to end? Like, what is going to happen here? Yeah. And it just, that scene on the bridge, spectacular. I mean, just incredible. It was moving on both sides. And I don't feel that the and I'm saying this in quotation marks, the bad guys in this were unjustified bad guys. You could sympathize with both sides of the line here.
Yes, there weren't. But to me, I mean, and you know, because it's such a topical discussion at the moment with, I mean, ChatGPT is really the Apple of AI in the sense that the technology's been around for a decade. It's just no one gave a shit until Apple piped up and went, oh, you know, this PDA with the fucking pesky little pen shit, we can do it better. And now suddenly everyone's got a fucking device in their pocket that, you know, Apple brought that technology to the masses. ChatGPT brought AI to the masses. It's everywhere and it's permeating society at the moment, and it's interacting in new and interesting ways. And we'll see that play out over the next few years. But I actually don't think this is another story about robots taking over and how we should be cautious about artificial intelligence. To me, this was about the right to exist as independent thinkers versus the machinery of government.
They literally say that. Ken Watanabe character says to John Davis Washington, he goes, do you know what's going to happen if we win this war? Nothing. We're not going to come after your people. We just want to be left alone. And that is their motivation.
You created us, now just let us be.
Just let us be. Yeah. We're not going to take over. We're not going to wipe you out. We're not going to do anything. Just let us be.
But in terms of it being a comment on current society, because it struck for me that it was a parody of what's going on in real life at the moment. And to me it really was about the machinery of government controlling society versus the right to exist as individualism.
It was also a big kind of fuck you to the hyper-militaristic nature of the US. Like,
well, totally. Yeah. No, I like it. we all sound like massive fanboys, but to me it was masterpiece level fucking movie.
Oh, incredible. And
Well,
going,
I very much enjoyed it, but there were bits in the middle where I was just like, I found myself going, "Oh, how long is this actually going to go on for?" I found certain bits in the middle dragged a bit
some
too
pacing
much.
issues. Well, look, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't. I haven't declared it perfect. I do think
Masterpiece, perfect. Come on.
Well, yeah, okay. I mean, I'll take that feedback, but I think it was pretty fucking close.
Okay, so I've got a caveat to Pete's masterpiece comment. I think it's a cult masterpiece.
Yeah, okay.
Great addendum. And oops. I've been trying to work in the term addendum for the last 3 episodes.
I tell you what I thought was really interestingly explored was and you can tell they'd obviously hired some futurists, or he is just that visionary. Yeah. But the notion of, okay, predict what military technology will look like in 20 years, but no robots. And so you end up with just super massive tanks, and you end up with hardcore armor suits with computer engaged intelligence, but they're not AI engines.
It did kind of feel like some of those designs, it's just like the Gareth Edwards went, well, I really liked Edge of Tomorrow, and I really liked the big the big tanks out of Star Wars, so I'm going to take those. And then he got to pick and choose, which I'm all for. Don't get me wrong. This is like, if I had the playground of that to create a film, and I'm like, I'm going to bring in some of the best elements from
but everyone's building on everyone else, and then there's an argument. There's also an argument to be made that they're all derivative of real life, and so they're kind of convergent at some point anyway.
Yeah, but that's what I thought. It was like the MVPs of semi-futuristic military technology, where, like you said.
But one of the big engines was basically a Warhammer 40k tank, like a Land Raider or a Land Raider Crusader, and it was basically take a massive tank and an APC, merge them, and then scale them up 5 times, and that's what was rolling over the top of that mountain. But that's also a description for a Land Raider from Warhammer 40k.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of convergent.
The special effects on that budget were phenomenal.
ILM, I loved the way that he described that Industrial Light and Magic were shit scared of him, because he was like, no, I don't need you to model this in 3 dimensions. I need you to just paint it into the scene, because I'm not going to change my mind later, I promise. Like, you don't need to...
I haven't seen that part. I didn't see that comment.
Yeah, so the reason he got away with it so cheaply was because he went to ILM and said, I'm never going to reshoot this sequence. I'm never going to change my camera angle. You don't have to create a perfect 3D model and then texture it from every fucking angle like you do for every other movie. I'm not going to change my mind. My shot is set. I just need you to paint a 2D plate. Yeah, and so a lot of those background sequences are traditional plate painting, like environmental design, rather than 3D models. And that's how they got away so cheaply.
But all the robots and all the Sims and just all of the extra. There was only one shot that was, I think it was not long after they find the child, where one of the guys walks out, and I'm like, that's a green screen shot. That was the only time that I went, that they could have spent like 5 more minutes on that background, and it would have blended a bit better. Everything else felt like it was there and belonged in that world. Yeah.
So a lot of it was, and so yes, there were video sequences, but someone hand rotoscoped most of those shots, right? So the heads where you can see, the robotics, you can see through the skull. That's all rotoscoped. So they filmed actual actors. In some cases, I love the fact that they weren't even actors; they were just people there. They were just filming people in back streets in Southeast Asia, in Cambodia, on a handy cam, and then they just randomly selected, here's a robot, he's human, he's a robot, and they just painted them out. And so the motion and the randomness of their behavior and actions were 100% human.
Yeah.
It's a great way of nailing AI being human born, because they are literally acting as humans. Anyway. I
did walk out of it, and I went and saw it with my mate Luke. And
I wish I'd seen it in the cinemas. I missed it.
We saw it in the cinemas, and then we walked out. We'd had couple of beers by the time we walked in and watched it, and then we had 2 more in the cinema and walked out and was just like, it's really nice that Gareth Edwards used all the cutting room floor imagery from Rogue One. It was really nice. Yeah, I liked going back to Scarif. That was great. Yeah. Like,
but you can see
his like, but that's the thing. You can see his fingerprint on it. It's his signature.
Yeah. It's I liked how you called it Rogue 2 earlier. But it's representative of his style as opposed to it being kind of an extension of Rogue One.
Yeah. No. It's his fingerprint on it, which is delightful to see, because sometimes, like, I know we've had it in the past. We've always had that kind of, it was always that signature style of certain directors. And I feel like
Villeneuve.
Not that fucking wank face. But yes, no, exactly. But it's like, it's starting to come back. I feel like it got lost a bit in the last say 15 years, and now it's starting to be like, no. I'm, as a director, I'm taking more control back.
This is my style.
Yeah.
I would enjoy watching more.
No,
I don't know that you would. I wouldn't extend that movie, but I that style from him, I actually think he does a great job. And just looking at his directorial,
I mean, I hope to God there's no sequel.
No,
I don't think there will be.
He said he said to the studios, this is a one-off. This is a standalone movie, and that's what he did.
Monsters and he did Godzilla, and you can. Sorry,
Monsters is great. I watched Monsters when it came out, and obviously he was unknown then, and I love it. It's a movie that's focused on a couple that weren't a couple.
It's a small story,
going across South America, and it's not even focused on the monsters. Like, it's also not.
It also wasn't scripted.
Okay.
The whole movie, and I didn't realize it was the same guy, because it's kind of reminding me now. I'm looking at it on IMDb. So his behind the scenes on this one was he gave the actors rough notes and then filmed them. And again, they were in Southeast Asia, exhausted, with no plan, no plot, other than these dodgy notes he would hand them, and they would have to just act against it.
Yeah, but heaven forbids let the person who knows their craft do their craft.
Yeah.
It's like over direction can kill things as much as it can help things at times with the right director and the right actors.
Yes,
it can create masterpieces, but
which we've talked about, where like Previs is now more controlling of movies than the director is.
Yeah. I think on the flip side of that, you've also got to be very careful about the fact you've got to remember that actors are human beings, and you can't just exhaust them so that they act naturally. Like,
no.
Yeah,
but
I just think that like
I'm not suggesting that.
Kind of going. No, I'm not saying you are, but I'm just saying we're talking about the way that Gareth Edwards has done this, and it does start going down a bit of a slippery slope where you get to like you start getting into
not actor abuse. Because if you talk to the guys,
but it can lead to that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
This is starting to get down to like what Tarantino started doing.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not. Hopefully he's not doing it.
He's not going down Tarantino yet, but
also Tarantino is Tarantino, and he can do whatever the fuck he wants. So,
but Monsters was quite different.
Legally, he cannot.
So the two main actors in Monsters are Scoot McNairy and Whitney Abel. Basically described it as it was an unplanned backpackers holiday through Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
And occasionally they're on camera. Because I didn't know where they were.
Southeast Asia.
I mean, that's the thing. As long as an actor knows that they're going in for that kind of like thing, they need to know for like up front.
But they didn't know where they were going to be. They didn't.
I'm getting to.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, it was South America because it was supposed to be based in Mexico, but a lot of it was. A lot of it was so they stated it. A lot of it's unscripted, and he didn't really have permits. And he made a point of mentioning that in the behind the scenes that it wasn't I'm going to rent out this street and all the extras are here.
Yeah.
It was I got a handy cam and no one will even notice me filming my movie.
No.
Anyway,
my one last little point to put in there is I thought the comedy was perfectly timed and didn't stand out to be silly.
It wasn't a gimmick.
No, so
it was a counterpoint in certain.
You got the dog that picks up the hand grenade and runs it back out and drops it at the robot soldiers, and then the car flip and turn back the other direction. I'm not going to say what they are because they were good points, and anybody who's not watched it. So
and the standby not shut down. There was a couple of moments there that I thought were quite comedic, but they were organically comedy rather than a comedy writer sat down and wrote a joke for the movie.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
We should move on because we're
I gotta pee.
buried in this. Okay, and also
While
Dan needs to
Dan
pee.
goes to pee, I did come home, and the first thing Emma asked me after credit, she was like, "How was it?" And I was like, "It's great." And she's like, "Well, can you give me one like sentence review?" And I said, "The dog doesn't die." And that is now how I have to phrase most films.
That's a whole website. I'm sure you're
the dog doesn't die.com. And I often look it up because there was a certain scene with a dog and a gun, and you're just like, well, that dies. Sorry, Pete. Sorry.
That's right.
Sorry, but it's fair. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Don't hold guns at animals.
True.
Children's fine. Animals, no.
Fueled a whole series of movies that should have stopped at the first one. So we're going to move into our spotlight. John Wick.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
We're going to move into our spotlight. I think we'll probably do this one pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because we're 40 minutes in and haven't hit the spotlight yet. This is why we're not doing Trailer Trash anymore. So this is Dan's idea, and I don't have enough filler to stall until he gets back. So we're just going to...
this came from a discussion Dan and I were having when I was talking more about the new traversal in Spider-Man 2 of you got the web wings. So you gained a pretty significant gliding ability compared to the first of the Insomniac Spider-Man games where you purely just had your webbing around. So now you can go, you can swing up as high as you want and you launch yourself off, and then you can press triangle, shoot at your little web wings, and it's a real change in the traversal. But it's not limited to that. It's also in like your gameplay in like a fight scene. So like normally you'd swing into one, but like what if you were web gliding through and you spotted a crime and you're like, well, fuck, I might need to stop that because you're going a little bit faster. So there were some videos that some people did like which one's faster. I'm pretty sure web gliding won by like 5 seconds. They did like the end-to-end map race. But yeah, this is where it came from, and it ended up in a discussion of like unique game experiences. Like I know there's probably some gamers out there who've played Spider-Man 2 who, unless they needed to use the web gliding wings, they wouldn't. Unless there was like a scripted thing where they had to use it, there was no other way to do it. There are certain missions that make you do that. But how much does that kind of, change it when everyone has the same ability to use like whatever ability it is? So you have the standard web slinging or you have your gliding, but to create a unique user experience, how much you use them and how much does that differ your gameplay?
Your experience. I mean, I kind of took this to the next level and focused on entirely and utterly unique gaming experiences because the engine allowed... Well,
I think this was the launch towards that.
Yeah, okay. Because you could have the same discussion about, God of War and which weapon did you favor throughout most of God of War. You could have the same discussion around, and ironically, we have had that conversation.
Party builds.
And we had the same conversation around Jedi Survivor and which lightsaber style of combat we favored. And in that sense, they're all kind of unique experiences. But I kind of took it a step further to impossibly unique, as in my experience of this game is unreproducible because of the engine or because of the mechanics or because of whatever. And I took that away from Dan's discussion around the Nemesis system.
Which I think is the perfect intro into it. So Dan... Pull your finger out of your mouth.
Tell us a story, son.
Tell us what you're talking about.
Tell us a story. Well, I've already told Tom this story, Pete, because I didn't want to spoil Shadow of War for you if you were ever going to get to it. Because
I'm never going to get to it, but I was going to go grab another beer, and now you've made me stay. So carry on.
Sorry. So the Nemesis system, for those who don't know what it is, it got implemented in Shadow of Mordor, and it's a way for randomly named orcs to be able to get thrown into this captain higher military
It's almost
system.
a player RPG system, but for NPC enemies.
Yeah, and they uniquely create names for them and visual appearances, and their story in each game is unique as well. So you can
based on the actions that you, the player, do to them.
Yeah, so it's procedurally generated, but it's narrative driven.
Yeah, so where this came from was I encountered an epic captain. So they come in just normal run-of-the-mill captains, epic and legendary captains, which when you kill them, you get an epic item or a legendary item or a standard normal item. So the tag doesn't make that much difference, but the epic ones have some higher
Better loot
traits.
drops. Better
loot drops, but they also have a poison weapon or a fire weapon or some unique abilities. So I encountered this one epic captain and I defeated him the first time, but you don't necessarily, unless you cut off their head, they're dead in the game. But you can do a whole bunch of cut it. No?
Nope.
Yeah, well, Tom's come up with something different. So you can cut off limbs, you can burn them, you can even cut them in half, and they'll come back and they'll be stitched up, or they'll have a hook as an arm, or a sword, or
Darth
they'll
Maul
be missing a
spinal
leg.
legs.
Yeah, exactly. So they'll be stitched back together in some way from your last battle, and when you re-encounter them, they'll refer to that and saying, you thought you killed me last time, but you know what? I'm back for revenge, blah, blah, blah. Some of it gets much more into it than that. So I killed this epic captain. Killed, I say in quotation marks. Took the loot that it dropped for me. And then 20 minutes later, I'm fighting someone else and he's popped up again. And he encountered me in another fight. I'm like, fuck you, I'm going to get you this time. So I started to fight him, and you can do things that make them scared or feared, and they'll retreat as well. And it'll notify you when they'll retreat, because they'll get a little line of dialogue and then they'll bolt out of the fight. So the second time I encountered him, I got him to the level where I was about to feed him again, and he retreated. He got out, and I couldn't chase him because there was just too many others out, and I lost him and they run pretty fast when they retreat.
Yeah, they do run very fast, yeah.
10 or 15 minutes later, he's fucking popped up again. He's ambushed me again. He's like, I'm going to get you this time. And so I fought him to a point where he retreated again. Like, he's not like, nah, I'm getting out of here again. But you've got an ability to pin them. So I fired an arrow at his foot and pinned him. And was this the time that I pinned him? Was it the second time that I pinned him? I'm reading my notes no, it's the third time I encountered him. I pinned him. So this is this time.
This is very much a nemesis system, right? That's the exact right word for it.
It definitely is.
It's also proprietary limited by this studio, yeah.
So I pinned him, and then what you do is you dominate them. So you, through the Wraith Celebrimbor that's attached to you, you can dominate them and
I saw
submit
ball gags and whips, but yeah. All right.
Basically. Submit their will so they become a captain for you instead of Sauron. But I couldn't because he was too high a level. Right. So what you can do when you can't recruit them and they're too high a level is you can shame them, which drops their level. So I couldn't dominate him. So that shames him, and that takes him automatically out of the fight. So when you come out of the domination screen, he's gone. Like, the character quickly disappears behind you, and even if you turn around, the orc's
just
gone.
pisses off. Yeah,
but then you can mark them in the army map. So, which is what I did. I went into the army map, I marked him, and then I hunted him down because I knew he would be below my level now. So I then went and hunted this fucker and got him to a point where I could dominate him again. So
and now you could recruit him.
Yeah, so you need to break them. So you need to wear them down in combat to the point where it says broken above their head, and then you can dominate them. Then Louise is sitting next to me on the couch doing her uni work, and when one of the big things when Celebrimbor dominates someone, especially in the early game, he slaps his hand on their head and goes, "You're mine!" Like in this big, loud, like dominating voice. And I just fucking yelled that because this had been going on for an hour at this point. And he's like, I've slapped the hand on him and I've just yelled at the screen, "You're mine!" And Louise is like stopped reading and like what the fuck are you doing? And watched me. And I was so happy when I got that, dude. Like, because it was an hour worth of gameplay that had no bearing on anything else I was doing in that game. And it was the thing that was
in the minigame,
completely unique to me. And that orc probably didn't even appear for anybody else in that specific configuration.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are certain orcs that appear in everyone's game, but then it is, as you said, it's procedurally generated what your orc captains that you meet in the game, and they just continually generate them as you go. So if there's a gap in the enemy army left too long, a new captain will appear, especially once you die. If you die, then the game kind of resets and goes, well, cool. Well, there's these three promotional spots. We're just going to put a random orc into it and push them up.
Yeah.
The other thing you do, which I don't think Dan really touched on there, is if you shame someone too many times, you actually break their mind and then they become like ungovernable. I don't know if you experienced this. Yeah,
No.
like when they go absolutely crazy.
They can't be recruited for either side.
Yeah, so you can break basically you break their will to live, but then they just become like they don't speak anymore. They don't they don't speak anymore. It's just like their eyes are just like wild-eyed and crazy. Yeah. You actually break their minds. Yeah. So I did that to Bruise. I broke Bruise's mind.
Oh,
yeah.
I like Bruise.
It's Bruisey. Fish are food, not friends.
You're making me want to play the game.
It's a fantastic game. It's a very, very, very clever way to generate enemies in a game where if you think about it, if you're one Captain of Gondor in Mordor, you would be fighting endless fucking orcs.
Yeah. So
and ones that come out and want to kill you and hunt you down.
Yeah.
And that's what the captains do. So
procedurally generated games or elements in games that are procedurally generated aren't new. They're like, it's a 20, 30-year-old technology. It's not new at all. It's been expressed more recently around games like this and No Man's Sky, and it does lead to these kinds of encounters. But like I guess
this is where it learns from you as well. So it remembers the exact attacks you would use. So you can't, if you fought a guy and you manage to disarm him, you can't do that the second time.
Yeah, so it remembers your fighting style.
It remembers your fighting style. And then there are certain guys, like if you burn them one too many times, they'll have a fear of fire, or eventually they'll get over it and they'll be like, "No, I am the fire now." Same with the poison element or anything else.
They become the Batman.
Basically, yeah.
But my point was, so No Man's Sky is obviously procedurally generated, and when you first play the game and you understand that you are landing on a planet, name something no one's ever seen before, and the particular blend of fauna and flora, and even the style of flora and fauna is completely procedurally generated. So it's unlikely anyone's seen that species of dinosaur type bird with that particular plumage and that, whether it's carnivorous. It's cool for about 10 seconds, and you realize that the procedurally generated nature of the game really doesn't have any bearing on gameplay. And so it is unique, but it's not unique and interesting in the way that the Nemesis system is, where Nemesis is unique, but so specifically driven around the story and plot that it has a point. It's not just doing something for the sake of doing it. It's actually a core point of the game.
And it becomes super important in your gameplay because you'll be trying to do something specific.
You're adapting to their adaptations.
Yeah. Like you're trying to get, like there's a thing where you, like one of the trophies, you have to dominate 4 captains of a war chief and then get them all to turn on the war chief when you appear. But the game at some point might be like, but you already, like, you abused this captain too many times. So when you say everyone turn, he goes, how about fuck you and I kill you. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So it's one of the cleverest systems I've ever like played with, or like especially like that. And it's so enjoyable. And I really wish, like, I know it'll never happen, but it'd be so nice if it got like shared to some other games. Like it could make like Far Cry games would benefit from this so much more than I think any other game I've played. Like, because the Far Cry games eventually just come like, all right, here we go. Drive my thing in, but I can snipe them all and then I'm done. But it's like if suddenly like it learnt enough to be like, well, Tom snipes everyone from this exact hill every time. So we're gonna like
climb up his ass while he's lying down with his eye
or
on
just
the
like
scope.
Mine that part of the hill so we know when he jumps in there and gets out of his car and lies down, he just blows up. It's like
Yeah.
So I had only yesterday, I had another very unique experience. I had these 2 orcs that were blood brothers. And every time I attacked one, the blood brother comes in to do it. So
to defend him.
They fucking frustrated me for so long, and I could not kill either of them because they were both really hard. And they just kept like annihilating me. And so in the end, I had to go and find other captains to dominate, and then pit that captain against one of the blood brothers and lead that blood brother into a trap. And then I did the wrong thing. I actually dominated that blood brother, and then I went after the other one, and the one that I dominated turned up at the other fight and said, mate, what do you think you're doing? Like, you tried to dominate me. I'm not working for you anymore. This is my blood brother. I'm going to fight for him again.
Yeah.
So I ended up back at square one. So
That's fantastic.
yeah, so it is an absolutely incredible system, and the fact that it's
Cool.
so unique.
It's unique. Yeah. And so your experience and journey through the game is going to be different to anyone else's because it's impossible for them to be the exact same. I don't know.
It's improbable. I wouldn't say it's impossible. It's improbable.
Sure. Okay.
It could, in a certain amount of games, still could become
monkeys with typewriters. Yeah, it could happen.
It could happen. Yeah. It's improbable, but it's not impossible.
Yeah. Okay. So when I thought about this spotlight, the only thing, I mean, obviously I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 at the moment, and it's a big feature in my world at the moment, and I'll talk about that more in Are You Winning Son. But there was this number that's been floating around the internet for about a year now, that there are 17,000 ending variations to the game.
Yeah.
Now you kind of look at that number and just go, it's probably, even if it's true, it's only true by technicality. It's not a real thing.
Yeah. Like, does it depend on who's in your party at the time? Like, how much they like you, depending on what they say? Like,
I don't know. I'm walking it back in terms of my thought process at the moment, because I actually genuinely think that unless you were going out of your way to write down every decision in every quest and what order you did each step of every quest in, there's no way that you could repeat the same journey through the game that I did. You would have to use the same characters. You would have to pass the same persuasion, deception, intimidation checks on the same quest characters at the same time. You would have to do step 1 of this quest after step 4 of this quest, and then step 3 of this quest. There's no way that you could sit there and script the exact same journey through the game. And then you sit there and go, right, well, out of 17,000 possible endings or variations to the ending, because there's not that many endings. There's about, I think there's 8 or 9 endings to the game.
Right.
How many of the 17,000 are material? It depends. And then it's like, well, then how do you measure materiality? Because I'm playing the game through a second time right now. I'm trying to make the same decisions. I've already played the game, and I've got no intent of really deviating from my first gameplay, like playthrough. I didn't do a good playthrough, and now I'm doing an evil playthrough. So I'm not, my decision-making process in my mind isn't fundamentally different. And yet, I'm only halfway through Act 1, and I've got a completely different gameplay experience right now than I did through the first game.
Which is
I've
really
got
interesting
characters
to say
I
that.
didn't even know existed in my camp.
Oh, wow.
So, in terms of materiality, it might not change the ending of the game, but it sure as shit changes the fucking
journey.
experience. Yeah.
Well, I'm actually on the opposite side of that, because I'm back in Dragon Age Inquisition because I'm a psycho. And like, I'm definitely remembering now as I go through it. It's like, without it, it's been 10 years since I played the game for everyone playing at home. And in those 10 years, I've obviously forgotten all the exact choices I made.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely now going, oh, I remember this cutscene. And if it's meant to be like a pivotal choice cutscene, it's like, well, it shouldn't be that. No, it can't be that similar. It's like I am making the same decisions that I made 10 years ago based on the character. But it's like I would have to drastically change what I'm trying to do to get a different playthrough, I think. So,
whereas I'm doing the opposite. I'm purposely trying to match the same decisions because I liked.
Also, it's a fresh one for you. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and the rest I might reserve for Are You Winning, Son? But no, certainly in terms of unique gaming experiences, somebody else has probably seen most of what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
But for me to play the same game twice back to back and diverge at Act 1 is pretty fucking impressive.
That's big.
Yeah. You guys keep talking. I need to grab my fourth beer.
Go grab your fourth beer. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know. Like, when I think about this in terms of unique game experiences, I always go like kind of similar to the Nemesis system and think one of the big things that always it changes a gameplay experience for me is traversal systems and how much you can break and bend them. And I think Emma really loves watching me just go, it won't let me get up this mountain. I'm fucking getting over it. I'll figure out a way. I know it would take me 10 minutes to walk around it, but I'm going to figure out a way to go all up and over.
Yep.
Yeah. And
This
it's like,
is
what?
kind of also why I was saying horses were useless in Assassin's Creed when you could just climb everything.
Yeah. Oh, no, exactly. But, I mean, Assassin's Creed's perfect for that. Like, how would you've got let's say, for argument's sake, a four-walled building, and you've got old mate you need to kill in the middle. And it's just like, well, if I come from the left, am I going to experience it differently from that way? If I come from the right, am I going to have to go up another story and then I can just like hop over and jump straight down onto him? Which entry point gets me the best exit point if I want to just do a quick assassination? But I think traversal is a big thing in like how you can make or break a system. And I often test a game based on how I can bend their traversal system. And look, Spider-Man was fun with that because it's definitely like the way you would approach a fight in terms of swinging versus gliding was like, but it was kind of the same of like with Arkham series. Like you could glide in that, and then it's like, well, if am I gonna silently glide in and then approach this kind of Predator style, or am I gonna rev up the bat tank and just blow everyone to like smithereens if I can?
Definitely Arkham Knight gave you all those extra tools, including the Batmobile in there. And it's like even in just the Predator system, the Predator scenes that were in high rises where the Batmobile couldn't get there, then you had a bunch of tools at your disposal. And it's like, yep, you know what? Here's your playground. Fucking go nuts.
Am I going loud? Am I going silent? And like, it's there like you like kind of Pete like said, there are a certain number of branches you can go on for that, but to get the exact branches again, like you'd have to have a pretty like photographic memory of like, yeah, cool. So I bat gelled that wall while I was over here slinging that guy up from a gargoyle, and then I like flew onto that guy and kicked him out from behind, and then set everything off.
But how? So I've come in back to this conversation halfway through. I guess my question to you would be, how material are those decisions? Because whilst your experience might be unique, do they have a material impact on the overall experience?
I think it changes the way you experience, especially when you're playing as a character.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like, because the way
it wasn't a loaded question. It was
no.
genuine.
It's a great question, but I think it comes back to that, like, how much do you want to embody that character? So if I'm thinking about Batman, it's like,
but also who are you embodying precisely is often the question.
Well, let's focus on Arkham Knight then. Like we've all played the Arkham series, and it's like, do you want to be like do you go? Or no, actually better, Ghost of Tsushima, because we all played that and we went so different because I fully embodied the ghost thing, whereas Dan was like, no, I am a strict samurai. And
Dan and I ended up very similar, which was...
You definitely leaned more into the samurai side.
But it was surprising for both Dan and I.
Yeah.
That
I fully expected you to go full Ghost.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those things. It's just like, how do you see, because that did affect the story, like at the end of it, like it affected the certain conversations you had with NPCs, and it's just like your experience of it is, I need to play it straight and fucking narrow, and I'm like, cool, I'm gonna poison dudes from a mile away and just sit back and go, job done, well done, Thomas.
I mean, it's been probably close to 2 years since I played Ghosts, and yet the memory of holding down the button or pressing the button at the precise moment to cut the guy's head off as he attacked me is still insanely satisfying in my memory.
For literally pressing a button, it was very visceral.
But it was perfectly timed, and I loved that the timing got tighter the higher the difficulty too. I thought that was a nice touch.
Very nice touch, yeah.
But also like, the cleverness of that, and incorporating if you wore the full Sakai armor, you got more advantage in the samurai standoff. But if you wore the full ghost armor, you got more advantage in your ghost-tastic. So they've definitely, 100%, they've known that this is going towards this gameplay and that is going towards that gameplay. Yeah. And if they're going, people want to do these certain things, then we are going to provide the tools for that player to do what they want to do.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of the time when we have these, like when we talk about this sort of stuff, and a lot of what is kind of coming out in my head in this conversation specifically is there's 2 or 3 paths, and whilst your specific journey might be somewhat different, you gravitate towards these large streams. And so if you were to map it, they'd kind of all kind of gravitate around these 2 or 3 streams of gameplay style. Yeah. You're either going stealth or you're going loud. That's true for Assassin's Creed. That's true for Ghost of Tsushima. And there might be some subtlety in between or some variations in between. You're primarily going to gravitate towards loud or sneaky.
There definitely is especially for me, for the Arkham and Arkham Knight in particular, because you had that extra element that they threw in. I forget what they were ever called, when you would pop up out of a floor or drop down and you would highlight
the vent takedowns.
Yeah, no, there was
detective mode, but
no. It was something to do when you got the upgraded suit. You were able to take 4 or 5 guys out in a
the multiple takedown.
Yeah, the multiple takedown. It had a name. I can't remember what it was, but I would
probably the bat takedown. If we're going to be completely honest,
I would, if I could find a situation to use that and take 4 or 5 guys out in a predator situation, or even 3 guys out, just because I enjoyed the visuals of that. I enjoyed marking them and going bang, 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 grapple away. Like, even if they saw me get to there, it was fun then to shoot the well,
then you kind of grappled around and like you lost them. You
had all these extra tools. You used the cross line, the zip line, and then you could stop halfway and pull yourself up onto the line, and you could create all these extra things that you could tackle that how you wanted to tackle. And one of the things I've always wanted to do is go back and play all those challenge maps and get the stars. The biggest things that stop me doing any of that is fucking load times, because if I fuck it up in the first 10 seconds, I don't want to wait 2 minutes for it to reload. I want to be instantaneous. So hopefully in any sort of update they do for Arkham Knight, we get a SSD load time update for the PS5.
Well, you do get to do the similar style like web lines in Spider-Man 2, where you get to connect webs together.
The other day. Yeah,
that was very fun, where you literally built a web above, and then you just walked along it, picked guys off at random, and then just tied them up. And
that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
The only other part of this conversation that came to mind when we were talking about it offline was just MMOs. Any massive, well, it doesn't even have to be massive, but any online game where you're playing with your mates or playing with people that you know. Our experiences in Grand Theft Auto, Dan, and Red Dead Redemption before that with Chris and Sui, completely unique to us. And that's an online game that everyone else is experiencing. It's the same mechanic, but the actual pathway through that game was unique to us. World of Warcraft, the memories I've got of that were made with the people that I was with more than the bosses. My boss fight with that boss is different to everybody else's because of the people I was with, and
my mates I played Titan Quest 2 with have still never forgiven me because we beat the final boss. It was 3 a.m. We're in an internet cafe in Chatswood, and I went, "Cool, we've finally done this after how many months of playing this game for like a 6-hour session, like every other week." And I went, "All right. Well, I've got to get the fucking bus home, so guess I'm going to go to the portal." And I left them in Hades. Because their characters didn't come through with me.
Oh.
And they've still never forgiven me. It's been 2 decades. Like,
but we so our guild had a guy who famously that was where came from for me. He would famously be the guy, because hunters in World of Warcraft had the longest range in the game. And so if you were trying to clear a dungeon to get to a boss, you would want to pull trash mobs in groups, but not pull the whole fucking dungeon in one go. And so he would be the guy that we sent out to go on, hey, can you go and shoot this group of 4 and bring them back to the raid? and he would constantly aggro the whole fucking dungeon. Just
Leroy Jenkins it. Leroy Jenkins
not through any intent, just through sheer stupidity, which is why we called him our hunter, because he was a fucking hunter. He would go into a cave and pull everything every fucking time. Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to. He must have just seen me around the corner. Like, no, dude, man. Like, you just have no situational awareness. But it drove the whole guild's storyline, not just our experiences on any given night. Because you couldn't raid without the guy because it wasn't the same experience. And so even though he fucked us up and he led to so much frustration, it wasn't a guild raid without him there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
His name was Turtle. Great guy.
That leads into my Are You Winning, Son? So when we get to that, I'll voice my experience.
Quickly have a beer
let's
and then
bridge that with let's talk about fourth beers and we'll get into it.
Yes, who's going?
I'm going to go first. I am having you ready to be dazzled?
Amazed.
Look at that.
Razzled, dazzled.
Whoa. This is the Aether Brewing West Coast IPA. This is, I'm assuming, just like their...
Does it have a name? Or is it just the West Coast?
Aether West Coast IPA.
Okay.
It is...
Nice and simple. What
6%?
style is it? Is it a sour? It's a brute sour.
It is D's Nuts, Ligma Balls variety. Is the hops they used? So I'm assuming this is just their West Coast. There's literally nothing on the can. There's none. This is useless. This is, once I've emptied it, it's just garbage. But it is a very, very well made West Coast, nice solid malt based body. It is nice and bitter. Little bit, actually, I'd say, this is more what the pininess and like, or pine as in pineapple, like that sharp pineapple flavor that I was probably hoping to get through the tangerine. I'm getting that in this. It's quite like when the sweetness becomes sharp. It's that at the top. But there's a lot of citrus going through it. It's very good. If this is a core range, this is great. I'm guessing they have listed here that it is original art on the can. The artist's name is Karen Lynch. It's called Beach Vibes. It's their collage art. So maybe they've just taken their core range and been like, hey, let's get an artist series going, which I think is very cool too. Aether from Northgate in Queensland, and that's a solid 4.5. That's a really, really well made West Coast IPA.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. Going down a treat.
Dan?
I've got the other AMSAT malt beer that I got from Temple Brewing in Victoria, Grizzly Times. It is an American brown ale, and this is made with the AMSAT dark crystal and chocolate malts, and it's light on the chocolate malt side of things. Actually, it's light on both malt side of things, but both of those malts are beautiful and clean and fresh. Like there's that real subtle dark fruit characteristic. There's that real soft chocolate character. So when we were at the malt tasting, we tried the actual malts themselves, and somebody had the dark crystal and said they were like those little brown baby lollies that you used to get. They were that kind of sweet.
They got renamed because they were too racist. The name of those.
They did.
I don't know what they got renamed to though.
And that's why you're.
I'll look it up in incognito mode.
That's why I can't name them. Yes. So, but those little brown jelly babies.
They're now called Cheekies, which isn't far from the original.
It's not far from the original.
Yeah.
But that's what they described the malt as, and it was a really good description of it because it had that slight sweetness to it, but that light chocolatey character to it as well, and that's coming through in this product as well as that dark fruit, a light dark fruit character, and it's got a fucking good level of bitterness to it for an American brown. It's like a nice, strong but not overpowering bitterness. It's not overly sweet or anything like that. It's just got the right amount of residual sugar. It's just completely balanced across all the board. There's no hop character there to overpower it. Just that bitterness works with that malt character. It's really phenomenal product as well. So, yeah. Pete's just looked up something inappropriate as well because he just
No,
laughed.
it's
So.
actually it's not. It was. I'm waiting for you to finish out of respect because I didn't want to interrupt your flow.
Well, that's something new.
Fuck yourself, Dan.
You know what? I'm giving that a 5 as well.
Yeah, wow,
Nice.
wow, nice.
Because
Very
I
nice.
think both of those beers are phenomenal beers, and I would be more than happy to drop $100 on a case of any one of those, and just sit there and drink that whenever I wanted a good beer. And they're bold flavors, but not palate destroying. So they are good starters and in between beers and finishing beers, whichever way you want to put it. But to have something that's high hop or high bitterness or something else or sour or whatever, this would completely reset you to a happy place, and then you can move on from there.
I got to say, astounded because and this is going to be mean, but I'm going to say it. I can't remember the last time I had a good beer from Temple.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure if I've ever had one. I'm sure I have, but yeah.
They were.
We
they
haven't
were
had them on the podcast often. We've had them on the podcast.
they used to be more prevalent in Sydney, being Melbourne-based brewery. They used to have more of a representation up here years ago, and they dropped off. But yeah, if Temple want to come at me and we want to have a battle royale, I'll destroy you. But yeah, let's fight.
So what? We've started a fight with Temple and Dangerous Ales this round.
This round.
Well, yeah,
like last episode, there's two other breweries.
Pete fought
It's going to end up in a destruction derby with us in the middle, but sure.
Diggity damn.
Moving on from Tom's dream. So I'm having a Sailor's Grave, God Save the Sponge.
Ooh, what was that one? I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
Does Dan need to wee? Is that what
I do. I do. I was going,
Okay.
and then you intrigued me with the beer you had.
So this is an Imperial Strawberry Cream Sour. And it's, but it's fucking spectacular.
Oh, God damn it.
See, I've got their apple pie one in the fridge, and I didn't have it today, and I might have it after this.
Yeah, and I know, and because I know that one of Dan's favorite beers is the Cake Hole in terms of sweet beers.
Yeah,
because he's not a big sweet beer drinker, but I know how much he loves Cake Hole, and that was the Black Forest Sour.
Moondog, no, Moondog Black Forest
Stout. Yes. This is kind of right up his alley because whilst this is a sour, not a stout, it's decadent in the right kinds of ways. So you get a shitload of strawberry, which you would expect out of an Imperial Strawberry Cream Sour. But I've got to say that there's enough vanilla balancing against it and then you kind of combine the vanilla flavors with the creamy mouthfeel and you get sponge.
Does Sailor's Grave, Kings of the Weird Beer. Does it say where they got the strawberries from? Is it like a local farm or anything?
I have no idea.
I'm looking it up, but I just thought I'd ask, see if it was on the can.
No, there's no blurbage on the can other than
no blurbage.
God Save the Sponge Imperial Strawberry Cream Sour. Lie back and think of England. It's literally all it says on the back. Other than the pregnancy warning, and I'm pretty certain I'm not pregnant.
Thank God for that.
No, so Dan, given how much I know you love Cake Hole, this is right up your alley. It's a different style of beer. Obviously, it's not a stout, but it's a sour that's not. It's acidic rather than sour, and I know they're words on the same kind of spectrum, but there is a difference to them. The vanilla. If you add the vanilla flavors against the creamy mouthfeel, you end up with sponge cake, which is exactly where it's marketed, and then strawberry prevails through the whole thing.
Oh, this is their 7th birthday beer.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Oh,
this Regal dessert stout is velvet in a glass full of luscious strawberries and creamy vanilla. Roll out the red carpet, polish your finest glassware, lie back and think of England. No, it's excellent. I'm going to give that a 4.75.
Lovely.
Yes. Smashing beer.
Pip, pip and all that, eh?
Tom, are you winning, son?
This just in. The Jerrys have crossed the river in their whirlybirds. Yes, I am winning. I was winning, and then I
Stopped
decided
winning.
to punish myself. I blitzed through Spider-Man 2, and that was the last time I spoke about what I was playing. It was Spider-Man 2. I had a great time. The story was great. It finished strong. I love those games, so it was just nice to be back in that world. They did a really good job of like cementing both playing as Peter and Miles in the same game. I think they balanced it really well, and each had their benefits of playing as that. The Venom storyline was kind of a rehash of like a mismatch of like a bunch of Venom storylines, but it worked. It worked really well for the universe they've created there. And there were limited Mary Jane missions, which was great.
That is the measurement of success in a Spider-Man game.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry while I crawl across this art gallery.
There was one or two Mary Jane missions, but they've decided to give her a gun, a taser, basically a taser.
Something more to do.
Can she use it on herself and skip the mission?
Unfortunately not. I tried. I did turn the gun on myself. I went full Goma pile on that one. Yes, no. Then I jumped into Doom Eternal. Fantastic. Loved it. Breezed through it. Breeze, probably not the best term to use. I rip and tore through it. I had such a fantastic, visceral, ultimate, like, hyper-violent time with it. And I'm still a day-to-day normal human. So, that's just proof that video
as
games,
much as you were before.
Yeah.
Everything's relative.
I did say I'm not sure if I messaged you both or just messaged Dan, but
it was just Dan.
I had one instance where Emma came home, and she's not good with the really visceral games that I play sometimes. And so she came home from the gym, sat down on the couch, and I was in the middle of like a very tense like moment. It was late in the game and didn't have my headphones on. So there's obviously like thrash metal playing. There is like techno thrash metal, whatever you want to call it. I'm ripping people's heads off. I'm chainsawing through guys because in this
it's just
game,
sensory overload in about 8 seconds. Well, this is the thing.
Flat. Like in the first Doom 2016, you had so much more ammo to play with, but in this one, they really push you towards using the chainsaw to get ammo to the point where your chainsaw somehow mysteriously regenerates fuel. Demons, whatever, don't care. So like. It's great for someone like me or Dan or yourself. It's just like, cool. But I was doing this and literally like finished the fight, and it's quite tense, like music behind it.
And the music does reinforce the heartbeat.
And Emma just turns with this face of like, what the fuck? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, why are you so calm? And I was like, it's actually quite soothing for me.
Yeah.
And then she goes,
and that's why we've all got seats in hell.
Well, I think at that point she's like, really rethinking this whole marriage thing.
pretty sure, yeah.
It was good. It was fun. It was really like Doom Eternal really leans more into the fantasy nature of the Doom series. Like, Doom 2016 was like it was space based, but it was sci-fi-ish, but it was grounded. Like, beside the fact that killing demons, it was grounded. Yeah. It was just more about the visceral, violent nature of the game. Whereas this is like kind of leading into this so much lore. I did the anti-Sui playthrough. I picked up every single piece of lore and read it. And actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was fascinating. Like I'd love to have a little.
Which is what got Dan through it.
This is a Doom lore. Oh, his was halfway through. I was straight from the start. And then I've just got the multiplayer to finish. The multiplayer is a massive disappointment compared to 2016. I said to Dan, so they changed the multiplayer from just straight deathmatch, which is what Doom and Quake are obviously built on from ID Software. This is now, it's that hunter style of game, that multiplayer gameplay where you've got 2-on-1. So you either play as the Slayer or you play as a demon, but the demon can then summon sub-demons. So you play as a high demon, you can summon sub-demons.
Yeah, that's right. You talked us through it because of the trophy.
Yeah, and it's as the Slayer playing it, unless you're one of the most skilled people playing as the Slayer, you there's no winning. It's game's over in 30 seconds. It's not fun. It's not good. Like, you need to find a group to like boost it. But the story itself was cool. I'll definitely probably download the DLCs and play through them. I think they're great. I'll play through Horde mode. That sounds really cool as well. But while I was waiting, I talked to some guys online and we talked about playing multiplayer. I think it's fizzled out, so we'll pick up a time to do it. I went back to Dragon Age Inquisition, which is it's my Ahab, it's my White Whale, it's my Moby Dick. I've never been able to finish this Nightmare playthrough. I'm not very good at those really tactical RPG games. I always pick the wrong class. After I started my Nightmare playthrough, I was like, why am I dying so often? And I looked up like a playthrough. Pete's dying over there. He's allergic to my bullshit.
Allergic to my own bullshit.
But they, like every single guy just read, play as a mage. Play as a mage or a rogue. Do not play as a warrior. So naturally I play as a warrior. So I've given myself the hardest version of the Nightmare playthrough. And then there's just been like, the more I've gone back and played it, and especially after years, like I enjoyed it when it first came out. I thought it was like a really nice story. It was cool. It was well built, well fleshed out. But going back now and playing it and being super frustrated by it, I'm starting to nitpick so many things that are wrong with it. And it's just, you can't run. And just fuck off. It's a fantasy game. Like, I know I'm wearing full armor, but let me run a bit faster than just a trot, because when you overpower me in any sort of fight and then send me back to the last like save point, I then have to physically do another 5 minutes running to get back to where I was, to try again, to then fail, to then try again, to then fail. And then, unfortunately, the only way I'm succeeding in this game now, and I will hand on heart say this, it's basically cheating, is because they released a DLC, which is a tie back to Dragon Age 2. It's like a store, but it's got really expensive, high-powered weapons in it. But as soon as you can afford one, you buy one and you blitz through it. So now I've got this super-powered axe, and I can suddenly kill the things that were just demolishing me before. And I'm like, you
shouldn't have to rely on that kind of...
No, I'd rather go back, and I said to you guys, like, I'd rather go back and grind through, like, building up my level. But yeah, sure, eventually I'd fight guys that are like 6 levels below me, but I'd still be grinding away. I'd rather have a 300-hour gameplay where I'm just like, no, I slaved away to get to this powerful level. Yeah. Now I can kill the big boss, than what I'm currently doing, which is I'm still having to do all that, but I've now got this kind of like uber weapon which I can destroy things with. It's like it's so imbalanced. And then the more like, and then talking with Pete about like the Baldur's Gate, like the multiple endings, I had to replay a certain mission the other day. It took me 10 minutes because I have this overpowered weapon now, so I can just blitz through it. But I deliberately went and chose different like conversation paths at the end when you're talking with the character that you're playing through the mission with. Exactly the same outcome. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
If I was a dick, if I was joking, or if I was compassionate, didn't matter. I was like,
played out the same way.
Cool. Yeah. So anyway, I will finish it. I will defeat it, and then I've never done this before, but I think I will snap that disc in half.
I knew you were going to say that somehow.
Yeah. It's.
I could feel the energy leading into that.
2014, I started that game, and I have gone on and off on it over the last decade. Like I played through it originally, got to the end of the story, and I played it through on normal mode, and like it took me forever to do it, but I did it. And now I'm playing through it, and I'm just like, yeah, that's getting a hammer taken to it, or a snap, or melted down, whatever. I'll find maybe multiple ways to
slag it.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway,
definitely.
Dan, are you winning, son? Not from me.
Yeah.
Convincing, very convincing.
Yeah, I'm winning. So if everybody likes and subscribes, I'm winning. Just fucking who wrote that?
I did. Christ. It's about as clunky as mine.
Yeah.
It's worse every time.
And so
actually hurt.
So
you could have woven that in however you like, Dan. It was just a reminder.
It was written in big bold letters on our notes, so it was coming out first.
Because I did it before and you ignored it last episode. So
no, it's probably because by this stage I'm usually far too gone to even bother having the notes open to read them. God, I didn't even read my own notes when it came to writing all that shit about Return to Moria. So I don't know how I'm going to read your notes, but anyway, yes. So outside of Return to Moria, Shadow of War, my two solo playthrough games at the moment.
Your Lord of the Rings kick.
Yeah, my Lord of the Rings kick. My Friday night crew. We just finished about a 3-month playthrough of a $7 game called 7 Days to Die, which is a zombie building survival game built by, I think it's built by one person. I don't know, but it's like every 7th day there's like hordes of, it's a blood moon basically, and you get a massive horde. So you got to go hunker down somewhere, and you reinforce the building through all the traps and everything that you've learnt to build over your time in that. And so that's been super fun. That's the Friday nights I play with Kelvin, Suey, and Steve. And we all take very different routes on how we play these games. So it's fun developing. And I mean, this rolls off our unique gameplay experiences. I mean, these procedurally generated worlds with 4 different people that can literally destroy the map to play. So the last night we played 7 Days to Die was last Friday, and the hospital, it was like an industrial building that we'd hunkered down on for basically 3/4 of the time we'd been playing. Our goal was just destroy the building. The zombies have to bring down the building. So there's certain server settings that they can put in. So Sui runs the server, and he put in zombie damage to blocks was like 10 times the base amount, and the nights were longer and all this. So we did that. We ran through 2 blood moons because it was a blood moon every night. I'm pretty sure it was the second blood moon that the building came down. So that was our goal at the end of that game, because there's no story, so there's no real end game to it. Yeah. So we ran a blood moon. We brought down that building, and then we moved on. And then we started to play a game, a 4-man squad-based game called GTFO. Okay. And it's been basically named as like the hardest squad game. Their tagline is "Work together or die together."
Yep.
I think they should take the work together out of it and just have die together as their tagline for their game.
Yeah.
Because it is I died 4 times in the tutorial. Like that's like it just kicked my ass like badly.
Is that a balancing issue though, or is it
no? It's like it's meant to be like that. It's a tactical thing. You pick the wrong tactic. So it's a first-person shooter. You're a prisoner that needs to go. There is some story to it. It's kind of like if aliens had taken a 20-year step forward and not had 70s, 80s futuristic retro kind of 70s and 80s tech, and it was 90s tech in 2020, like 2050 kind of thing. If it had taken that time frame and just moved it forward, all the tech, all the computer-based systems are very DOS-based command systems. The IT guys, Pete, you'd understand too, because you understand that language. Kel sits there at the terminals and just types in commands to ping things and look things up on the map, but they're real-life commands that you have to put into these terminals to find things. But you're also incredibly fragile with a very limited ammo base. And we played the first map 4 or 5 times and just got fucking annihilated. Like absolutely wiped out at the same point every time, because you set a security door off and you just get a wave of these. They're called sleepers. They're kind of like the clickers in The Last of Us, but they're all the clickers. There's no in-betweens. And they come at you, and you set an alarm off so they all horde to where you are. They break down doors. You can only carry one tool, which is a turret or a gun that reinforces the door, or a bioscanner or something like that, and 2 weapons, a main and a primary. And then you pick up bits and pieces away. You pick up ammo packs, but like super limited resources. And then basically you get to your objective and you GTFO. And we finally, after a couple of playthroughs, relievingly got to the primary objective, and we're like, fuck, how do we play this? Like, the game is called GTFO. Do we just get the fuck out? Or what do we do from here? Do we fight the horde that we know is coming? Or do we just fucking run? So we stupidly chose the wrong option.
To stay. Yep. You stayed to fight the horde. Yep.
Yeah, we stayed to fight the horde. Or we tried.
You got penisy, kid.
we tried to move and then stop and fight and then move and then stop and fight, and they just annihilated us because the big guys come, the tanks come, and they wipe us out. And anyway, we got through to the primary objective the next time because we knew where to lay the turrets and how to tactically work the level. And then we got the fuck out. And that was round 1. That was map 1. Map 1. And so we played map 2, and yeah, we got fucked, like totally, like because you just have to throw those tactics out the window, and you have to take a little bit of what you learn and go forward, but the maps are completely
adapt it more than anything.
Yeah.
There's a fine line in these types of games between forcing a group of people to work together and adapt to each other's personalities and overcome through coming together versus just being too fucking difficult and getting frustrating and people abandoning the game. And it's a very fine line between those two extremes.
And I think this game absolutely sits on the working together side of that line. It's
that's cool. That's really cool.
Incredibly difficult, considering 4 people that have been playing video games for 25 years, and these types of games too that were just annihilated. We could churn our way through it. But you come down to talking about your hunter drawing the entire dungeon to you. In the second map, we were getting to these rooms that were just filled with fog, and we're like, fuck, do we try and take the first couple out and then sneak in and take the next couple, which is the idea of it. What we thought was the idea of it. But I think what we discovered about that second map was just draw each room to you, set up a kill zone, draw each room to you, which is not how the first map ran.
Yeah.
So be interesting if we can get through this second map, what the third map then holds and what your future holds, because there must be, I think on this first level there's 1, 2, 7, maybe 9 missions within the first tier, and then there's only 3 lots of tiers to go. So I think it's an incredibly well created game. I love how they've created the maps and the HUDs, and it's all meant to lead to you being a little bit insane and being quite disturbing. And I think the sound design and the map design and everything is just that little bit frustrating, but well-designed frustrating. It's not poorly designed. It's the sound design and how they've structured it all that makes your brain itch a little bit. So, yes, I'm winning.
Cool.
Are you winning, son, Pete?
That's cool. After that, I don't even know how to follow that.
Probably talk about your game.
I am absolutely winning. This is, But I've had, the problem is we get to the end of the episode and I've had enough time for the alcohol to really soak into my brain. And so I feel like the Are You Winning, Son segment for me is always just this blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it was really fucking good. But yes, it is.
Then write notes.
I've got a million notes, but
then
I should
them.
write them. So Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the very first games that I have ever played that I have finished. I've put 160 hours into to finish the game, and then immediately gone back to the very beginning of the game, and instead of doing a speed run to clean up trophies, I am playing the game through like I did the first time round, playing it slow.
So you're not playing it differently? Or would you...
you know what? I went in with the intention of playing it differently, and it's funny how it's shaken out because... So the first time round, I played probably the really traditional, typical soy boy playthrough. I was a paladin, so I was super good, kind-hearted, protected all of the innocents. You know, I was a goody-goody two-shoes all the way through. Was
so the
my
exact
main
opposite
character.
of you. Yeah, right.
Pretty much, yeah, because I'm chaos incarnate. I had a relationship with the character that's very clearly designed to be the one that you have the relationship with, because even when you're not romancing her, she's still flirty as fuck every time she talks to you. And I played that supporting character in her original in-game class. Like, I didn't fuck with anyone's classes, so you pick up all these side characters from the tutorial mission onwards throughout the course of Act 1 and Act 2. You pick up all of these extra characters that you can then bring into your party of 4.
How many characters are there? And like, is it like a cast of 12?
Yes.
Or
I want to say there's probably 10 to 12. Some I didn't even meet until the end of Act 2. So like 2/3 of the way through the game, I'm meeting this character, Will. And they all come with classes that they're predisposed to. Their background and their race supports them. They're already in that class, so they could be a ranger or a wizard or a rogue or a sorcerer or whatever. And so my first playthrough, my main character that you get to roll was a paladin, and then I had a cleric, a rogue, and a wizard, which is a very traditional D&D party of 4. Because you have a tank, who's your pally, you've got a healer, your cleric, and then you've got 2 DPSs. Usually you want a melee DPS, who in my case was a rogue because he could pick locks, and then a magical DPS. That way you can pretty much overcome any challenge most D&D DMs, Dungeon Masters, would throw at you. That was my first playthrough. And because I'm a completionist and I like platinum trophies, I played every side quest I could find. I went out of my way to explore to unlock the fog of war on every map.
Yeah.
I played every quest. I talked to every NPC. I completed the game as best as I possibly could. And so when it came to the second playthrough, I'm like, well, the one issue I've got with this game is pacing for experience. You hit level cap at the start of the third act, not the end of the third act. And I've got to say, that is a problem for pacing in the game. There's nothing to look forward to in terms of character progression other than, 0.5% increase in stats because you found a new piece of loot. That's the only reason to do it other than narrative and close the quests. But I did it anyway. Went to play through the second time and I thought, you know what? This time I'm going to min-max. I'm playing in tactician mode to get the trophy. It's the most difficult level, most difficulty that the game offers, the highest level of difficulty that the game offers, and it does scale up difficulty in lots of interesting ways. You get less turns to do any of the timed quests. So there's a bunch of time quests where, in my first playthrough, which was on balance, you got 6 turns to complete the whole map for this mini quest. Now I will only get 4.
Right.
Turns out that the roll to attack, which is something that Dan, you'll understand being a DM. So you roll the d20 and you have to exceed armor class after you add all of these bonuses. Well, there's a synthetic -2 penalty in tactician mode. So there's a bunch of other ways that they've ramped difficulty beyond the obvious of just extra hit points and lower damage. But I've tried to do all the same quests in the same way, but this time I thought, fuck it, I'm going to min-max. I'm going to multi-class all my characters. I'm going to exploit the shit out of the D&D 5th edition rules as best I can. So I don't have a rogue. I've got a ranger who at 6th level is also a level 1 rogue, so she can stack her bonuses to range damage with her bonuses to melee damage, because a crossbow is technically a melee weapon, just a distance-based one. And yet I'm still getting my ass kicked. I'm still trying to do all the same side quests the same way. I'm still a decent character. I'm not quite perfect, but I'm decent. And ironically, my main is still a pally. And yet my second playthrough is very fucking different to the first.
Interesting.
I met a character that I didn't think you could even meet until Act 2. I walked past him at the start of Act 1. I'm like, the fuck are you doing here? I spoke to everyone. Where the fuck were you the first time round?
Yeah.
And now he's in my camp. I've had NPCs in my camp that I didn't even know that you could put in your camp.
Mm.
And I'm halfway through. Yeah, I want to say I'm 3/4 of the way through Act 1, second time round. Played it back to back, not bored. Just want to abandon my career to just go play this video game. Still, in terms of engagement level, it's one of the very few games I've ever finished a 150, 160 hour playthrough and just been just as keen to start again as I was the first time round.
Yeah. Interesting you say that about the finding different characters playthrough and like you tried to do it the exact same way. I just remembered that I've actively
Not the exact same way.
no,
but
I know what you mean, but yeah,
some tweaks.
But I've actively tried to find the ways where I can use the characters in my party to skip certain boss fights, and I've going on this nightmare playthrough, and I've sacrificed NPCs at the sake of skipping a boss fight because it's too hard.
Yep.
Like, because they just made these bullet-spun enemies. It's not the clever upscaling that you're talking about.
Whereas,
mind you, it is EA game, so it makes a lot of sense.
So this playthrough, I'm also trying to pick up a bunch of trophies that are challenges that would be like a cakewalk if I did this on the easiest difficulty.
Oh, good.
Like there's ones where like there's a boss you have to fight where he's only vulnerable when he's exposed to lava, and then when he's exposed to. And Dan, I'm trying to avoid spoilers because I know you've only played through, I think, Act 1. Did you?
I played through to the end of the playtesting, whatever. I'm not even sure that was.
But I'm pretty sure that was.
1.
Okay. Did you fight?
Sure.
Did you get to the adamantine forge?
I don't think so.
It's a very specific question. Okay, so there's a mini boss that is extremely difficult to beat, and I really struggled with him. There's an environmental mechanic baked into that level design,
Mm-hmm.
and you are supposed to defeat him using the environmental mechanics, and it's still difficult.
Right.
So I'm trying to be as cryptic as I can while still having a conversation.
Yeah. I kind of understand what you're talking about. I think I've pieced 2 and 2 together. Yeah.
There is a fight. There's a trophy where you're not allowed to use the environment at all.
Yeah,
and I'm like, even on balanced
that's good
difficulty,
challenge trophy. That's good.
Even
trophy.
on balanced, I'm gonna I really struggle to see how I would have defeated him the first time round, and the second time round, I'm now playing as tactician mode, and I'm actually anxious because I know I'm getting to that point in the game, and I'm like, what other quests and what other parts of the map haven't I explored that I can kind of change the order of operations here so that I can be a higher level when I finally get to him?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing I'm finding is, like, if I look at one of the side quests that didn't end up being at all important, and I really stressed about the first time round, if I Google now, how many ways can you play through this quest? There's 4 entry points. There's 2 physical entry points into the start point. So you can walk down this path, you can go around the back accidentally and just kind of wander in. There's literally 4 entry points into the start of the quest. And there ends up being 16 different ways that you can end the quest. And each one of those 16 ways feeds into the entry point of other quests around it. And there's like 10 quests around it. And this is where you get to the 17,000 possible endings. Is every single quest interacts with every single other quest around it in this ever-growing circle. And it's just... I don't even know how you would map it as a player, let alone as the fucking development team.
I mean, that's somebody sitting there that's experienced with the D&D game design and just gone, this is how this shit plays out.
But it's not even game mechanics, it's quests.
Yeah,
If you killed this person because you convinced this other person to help you, that's a different outcome than if you just killed them because you're an asshole.
Yeah.
And that's different again than if you'd killed them after failing a persuasion check and them attacking you. And yet each of those 3 circumstances still ended up with him dead, but the next quest giver will treat you totally differently. And then times that by I don't know, I reckon there's maybe 250 quests in the game. And all of them interact with each other. It's
a lot of red string that someone's tying on a
fucking oath, man.
That's
exactly it.
That's taking a real-time DM dealing with what the players are doing in real time and mentally calculating where their story's going and having the next village or the next quest giver or the return quest giver react differently to what the fuck you did. Like that's a human preempting the bullshit that the players are going to do.
The difference being that
it's the one thing the MCU is missing right now. They just need a good DM, is what they need.
But the other thing is a DM will change the ending point depending on the narrative, whereas obviously in a video game, they've got to predict every possible narrative impact to land in roughly the same place. Because overall, you're still going to the same spot. You're still going to fight the same bosses.
So you'd imagine that in their development, they were just playing hours and hours of this campaign, just doing every single...
You can easily understand...
Bring in different D&D groups to play this campaign.
Potentially,
But you can understand why it also really spent 2 years in early access.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because it was 2 years of players going, I wonder what happens if I kill this fucker before I even start talking to him, before the quest even begins. I wonder what happens. I'm struggling with that at the moment because there are a couple of quests. There's save a goblin in 3 different cities. And then, because the goblins are obviously bad guys, and then there's save the tiefling refugees, which again needs you to save every single refugee and their piss weak little refugees in 3 different cities across 3 acts. And you're like, and you read online and it's like, oh, I killed the 3 bosses and then the goblin just randomly died. She was standing there 1 minute and then she just killed over and died, and I missed out on the trophy. And so it's forcing me to make slightly different decisions in different orders to kind of try and keep everyone alive in certain circumstances. Again, I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but there's just like obviously a lot of interaction. God, I hope that's full of beer, Tom.
It's straight moonshine.
Hot diggity damn!
That's why you can't see anymore.
We're 2-stepping.
Anyway, that's it for me. I'm like, again, I'm seriously impressed by this game. So
it's sounding like more and more that it just deserves the game of the year, like awards. It's up for.
Just on a storytelling perspective, just from its storytelling perspective and the way that it interacts with the game mechanics, like I don't know that there's a peer to it.
So and like I've said to you, like it's one of the few games that's up for Game of the Year in the Game Awards that's multi-platform, which should be a bare minimum like requirement.
Other than Xbox, it's still not released for Xbox because they've still got some bugs apparently. Because as much as fanboys would like you to ignore the fact, the hardware just doesn't keep up in certain areas.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it for me.
Definitely.
I think it's time. I think it's time.
I think
to
it is.
Say goodbye. Yeah.
Goodbye. I don't know.
Well, thank you very much.
There should be some sort of background, like symphonic music starts to play. Yeah.
Say goodbye.
Boats and hoes.